OTB AM.
The Sports Breakfast Show from Off the Ball.
Very good morning. I am on, and it is Friday morning. You're very welcome along to OTB AM, the Sports Breakfast Show from Off the Ball. I love this music at the start of the show. Gets you in the mood. Aisling O'Reilly is alongside me this morning. Good morning, Ash.
Good morning, Shane. How is things?
And good morning, Colm Buhig. Good morning, Colm.
Good morning. Yeah, it was this time last week, wasn't it, that the Colm versus Colm debate occurred?
Right.
And we just were, the three of us there were listening to a nice review from a fan of the show.
So did we decide that you draw a line from Dublin to Galway and everyone north of that says Colm and everyone south of that says Colm, or is it more nuanced?
I think there's a bit of nuance. Like Nathan now is definitely Colm, and I know that, and John Douglas this morning in our own office.
Yeah,
Colm.
But is that for you now at this point?
I say it to you because it's for you.
know. But his parents are Clare, isn't it? Aren't they?
Yeah.
But he's a dub.
He is a dub.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was nice.
There you go.
But Jarnow would be Colm, you know, and a few others like that. But anyway, we were listening to a review of the Colm versus Colm debate
from a friend of the show.
Who, what did he say? Those Nordies, I think they own the place.
They rule the roost.
Let us say who it is.
Ooh.
I don't know. It's a well-known fan of the show.
It was said tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah,
To be fair,
very joking.
It was. It was.
And I'm, I suppose, a Nordie who doesn't take that. And I'm not from the north, but
Exactly.
I'm from the north.
I wouldn't call you an Nordie, you know. But Colm was excellent. And he went viral.
This is Colm again. This is actually his column.
Yeah.
Oh, he enjoyed it, yeah. I don't know if he'll ever do it again, but he enjoyed it.
80,000 views. Stopped in the shops.
80,000 views. Took it to like duck to water. Very calm and composed analysis. Deep knowledge of football.
I told you that lads from down are calm.
Very calm.
Very
yeah.
calm,
They're just
yeah.
calm.
Dara Smith-Nachton was telling us that too, wasn't he?
Just Nordies
Something
are
about down
calm.
lads. Is that true? Is it?
It's a very laid-back, easygoing demeanour, I think.
Why is that?
I don't actually know. I'm sure there's some mad ones from down as well, but like...
Answers on the YouTube postcard there. Why are down people so relaxed? Do you know that music there that played us in?
Yeah.
Obviously reminds you of everyone of the Padded as well.
The Padded. Yeah, of course, yeah.
And have you seen the film?
The movie, yeah. Of course I have, yes. Matt Damon, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah. Have you seen it?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, are you going to see it? Are you planning to? Because I think
I
the
will
spoilers.
now.
Anyway, look, I think it's fair enough to do spoilers because it's like 2006.
Oh God, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I hadn't seen the movie and it's flicking by one day years and years ago. I hadn't seen it yet.
Yeah.
And the very, very first scene that I saw when I flicked by was literally the second where Leonardo DiCaprio got his head blown off.
Oh God,
and I was
yeah.
like, oh my God, they killed off Leonardo DiCaprio and it's not the Titanic. That's massive. Like
It's quite a scene. Is
that's genuinely shocking.
this where the lift opens?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's still about a third of the movie to go.
I don't know what's going on here, but you've ruined that film for me, haven't you?
I haven't. Honestly, doesn't make it won't ruin it for you. But
No difference.
that was my first experience with the Debated.
The first comment on the YouTube this morning, and keep them coming. Owen O'Connor, where's Shane from? No doubt tongue-in-cheek, Owen, because I don't talk about it often enough on the show. I'm not even going to dignify that question with a response, because you already know. I was watching the Ireland-Australia match yesterday in Joe Quaid's house in Limerick.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Himself and his son had the telly on, albeit the TV out of sync to the actual action, but it turned out that was a problem for everyone. Wasn't just me. There's nothing worse, is there, to watch a football match like that?
It was infuriating because we had our own additional problem. Virgin Media customers, before the game started, the RTE2 channel was gone blank basically. So every single other channel had a picture except RTE. And I was like laughing incredulously, being like, this can't actually be happening. And I turned it off, turned it on again, plugged it in, plugged it out. Went on Twitter, turned out this was happening to loads of people. Virgin sorted it out within 5 minutes. So I thought, great, game started now. And then that happened for the first half. Now I have to say, I don't know about you or yourself, I had a little bit of sympathy for what was going on behind the scenes, because can you imagine
what
they were trying, because you know, and like all Twitter was like, sorted out RT, you're a joke, another
taxpayers' money,
unbelievable. I was like, can you imagine what's happening behind the scenes right now? Like people are running all over the place, and they sorted it out at half time, and then even in the analysis at half time they were like apologising profusely for the interrupt. Like they couldn't do anything else really. They put two graphics up on screen apologising for it.
Yeah.
But like obviously it should have been sorted beforehand. Like it was so infuriating. Like it was about 5 to 9 seconds of a delay at one point. Now Paul Howard made the point on Twitter that if you're working, it was actually quite handy because the commentary was ahead, so you can put your head up whenever there was a chance with the rise of the voices.
That's actually,
But I think anyone else who was just watching it as an Irish fan, it was infuriating. People were like, just turn the commentary off until it resolves itself. And like there was like articles written about it, and it was just everywhere on Twitter.
I found it's kind of the opposite of I remember watching the match in the press box in Old Trafford before. It was United. It was the 5-0 Liverpool at Old Trafford when Solskjaer was in charge, and you're sitting in you've got your small TV camera in front of you, and it's playing like 5 seconds after. So obviously something happens, and then you can look down and actually see what happens. So you're not waiting as long as a instant replay takes, but you're getting the game basically 5 seconds delayed. So it's perfect for reporters and journalists who maybe want to look down and catch something. Croke Park doesn't have anything. Does it have
we've TVs in front of us, so they show the replays and that sort of thing they might see on the big screen.
It's handy.
Big time, because I think often when you're at home you can almost see more sometimes,
especially
the close-ups as well. But no, for me yesterday with the commentary, like I was watching it in the Walsh Ban Grail in Cork, so there was a massive crowd, it was a massive TV, like a big like flat screen TV, and so many people there, so it didn't actually bother us as much because it was almost hard at times to fully hear that. And there was so much cheering and everything else, so it drowned it out almost. So when I was online and everyone was going mad, I was like, okay, this is I noticed a few times, but it was so loud there that it was hard at times.
Well, one of the top performers for Ireland yesterday was Denise O'Sullivan, and you were with her family watching the match yesterday. That's a way to watch a World Cup match. It
was brilliant, because literally any time she popped up on the screen, the whole place just erupts. And it was mad. I was like, imagine having like a brother or sister in the World Cup. Like, it's incredible.
I don't know if I'd be able to watch. I'd be able to watch, but like very, very tensely.
Well, we had Luke Connolly on the show yesterday morning before Megan played, and he said like, he finds it so difficult to watch any of Megan's games throughout the years. And this is, Cork senior footballer who himself had a bit of status and played in front of thousands, but he said like this is worse than anything else he's experienced. And I was chatting to him after the match as well, and being like, geez, I thought that free kick was in at the end, and he said to me, so did she. And
it flicked the top of the wall, didn't it?
Yeah, and it went out for a corner, hit the top of the net, but she did amazingly well to get it up and under so quickly, because it's about 20 yards, it's 2 yards outside the box. But Lucy Quinn won the free, and they the subs were excellent. Really good. Made a big difference.
Really good.
But
that's not always been the case.
No, and I mean, look, the big thing is like, where was Amber Barrett? Why did Louise Quinn go up front?
Any striker sitting watching that match must have been thinking to themselves, like, okay, you're bringing Louise Quinn up before you're opting for me.
Now, I was listening to the analysis afterwards. So Karen Duggan said on RT, she questioned that, she said putting Louise Quinn up front is no longer a tactic, like that shouldn't be used. And on the World Cup show yesterday with Richie, Kathleen and Gav Cooney were on, and Kathleen kind of had the same opinion that we really should be moving beyond that now at this point. Whereas Gav said, well, it is a tactic because they did switch to a 4-3-3 system. But it just seemed unusual because you can still have Quinn as a threat at set pieces
in the box,
because from the 70th minute onwards Ireland got a number of corners, so that's still an additional option. So why not bring on a player in Amber Barrett, who scored 6 or 7 goals from the bench and who was incredibly motivated to prove a point and justify her selection in the squad. So it did seem like an unusual selection.
I feel like Vera has her, I'm not going to use the word favourites, but she has her ideas and she sticks with them. Like even Leanne Kiernan, such a good footballer, but has not been a part of her plans and won't be.
I think that's a big part of it.
Amber Barrett seems to be the same. Yes, she came on against Scotland and scored that goal, but apart from that she hasn't really been someone who Vera has leaned upon or wanted to use. She's obviously one of the faces of the team
because she did it in the warm-up games as well, against Zambia.
She scored twice,
unbelievable, and she's doing it time and time again, so she's backing it up. And when you need a goal coming down the stretch, it is very strange.
The camera's panning to the bench yesterday, in the last 10-15 minutes, and the players are all on their feet and gesturing and involved, and Amber Barrett is front and centre of that.
And she's sort of hitting her hands off her legs, and she's jumping, as in come on,
throw me in, coach.
Put me in.
And at one point George Hamilton intimated that she was coming on. And it was 77th minute or something like that. But it will be interesting. Now, in fairness, after the Scotland goal last year at Hampden. Like, there was a goal drought after that, and the Zambia friendly did actually solidify her place in the squad. If she hadn't come on and scored those 2 goals, there would have been a question mark whether she was selected at all, which is hard to believe now, because she is, I think, was it Gav Cooney said she's like the Wes Hoolahan of women's Irish football. Like, she's just revered now as this kind of almost mythical figure. But in terms of team selection, and like you say, Vera Pauw is like fairly inflexible in what she wants to do, which is also a massive strength as well at times. And like, Ireland looked very solid defensively. Australia offered very little threat. Like, the late exclusion of Sam Kerr didn't help, like, but Fowler and Ford didn't do an awful lot up front, because Quinn and Fahy were excellent. But I suppose the big question mark now is Abby Larkin. Does she start against Canada next Wednesday? Because she was really good when she came on. Marissa Shiva was, I suppose, slightly ineffective besides conceding the penalty, whereas Sinead Farrelly was good. She's a controlled player. I do wonder,
like, if Abby Larkin had such an impact off the bench, I do wonder if they might keep her. They might keep her there.
Vera will love that Abby came on and was able to do what she done. And no, I couldn't see her starting. I think she's too effective coming off the bench. But Marissa Shiva, she looked quite nervous. Like, even coming out of the tunnel, there was like a massive deep red, and like, which you can only expect, of course. But it just looked like her touch was a little bit off. And what we saw maybe of her driving forward in the France game, it wasn't really there as much. But I agree with Farley. She definitely played well. She linked up well with Heather Payne. She had a lot of the hard work, what a lot of the time can get unnoticed at times, but I think that she really did get on the ball, and she set up play going forward. So I do think she'll definitely warrant starting again.
Like, Farley hasn't played much football, but I think to get the best out of her, you do play her for an hour rather than bringing you on for half an hour, because she can control a game, like that's the difference. Now, I was noticing, like, so Gary for Australia had the most, I think she won the most turnovers, like she won the most possession, 11 times. But the next 2 people in the entire match was both McCabe and O'Sullivan, so they're your 2 best players who were still probably playing too deep. Like, I thought O'Sullivan had a decent game. I thought she gave the ball away a fair bit because she was probably trying too hard, but you could see her moments of class, like, definitely her touches are like a cut above, but there was times where she kind of ran into traffic. But you can't help but think, like, it's probably too much to go for Izzy Atkinson left wing back. She's too inexperienced, but if you could find a way to get McCabe further up the pitch. Now, I know, like, she can still do a fierce amount of damage at left wing back, not like she hasn't done it at club level or for the country, but you just can't help but think, like, get your best player further up the pitch and take a risk on Atkinson. But I think it's almost a moot point, because Vera Pauw's not going to do that.
No, she wants his lone striker like Kira Caruso. It's tough job, really tough job,
donkey work,
and you're waiting for the moment of magic. There was a ball that Katie put in the first half, and it was almost like Scotland, Amber Barrett. She just needed to get a foot on it to get a bit of space and get away, but it didn't come off for her. But it's such a tough role to play, and I think Vera's just set in that defensive system.
Completely.
But it is very tough to get goals that way.
Thankless task. We should mention as well the Canadians and Nigeria drew 0-0 overnight, which is a really good result you'd expect for us. And there was a penalty, Christine Sinclair's penalty for Canada, saved in the 50th minute. A really good save actually as well. So very good defence.
Sinclair, oh my God, what a player.
Yeah, unbelievable. Unbelievable.
40 years of age, it's incredible. Her 6th World Cup. Like, it's just madness. Love it.
We can control her now next Wednesday.
How about the chance after 20 minutes when McKay plays it through to Carusa?
That one.
And Carusa just doesn't read the ball. It's over the top after 20 minutes, and she's through 1-on-1 if she gets her touch right, but it didn't, like, she didn't attack the ball. And then after that, O'Sullivan had a kind of a cross volley, which I think Shiva nearly got on the end of. So there was glimpses, glimpses, but it was really the last 20 minutes where Ireland came alive a bit. And the frustration is, like, why can't they start like that? But the counterpoint to that is, if you start like that and go gung-ho and Australia go 1-up early, then you're in serious trouble, like.
You're in bother.
So I understand the tactic of playing it safe for like 2/3 of the match and then risking the fact that it'll be either a draw or you're narrowly losing, which was the latter, and then go for it from there. But, like, look, the McCabe chance is big at the end with she controlling her left foot, and I can't remember the Australian player, but someone covered brilliantly. I think it was deep lying midfielder when McCabe was about to unleash her left foot, and if she did, you'd imagine that was 9 times out of 10 going to be a goal. But she had to put it back onto her right, and she toe poked and the keeper parried. But right after that, there was a moment which is such an Ireland World Cup goal where McCabe crosses in and Louise Quinn is up there, glancing header, far post. That's your reading in the years. George Hamilton 1-1.
Slow
slow-mo bouncing in, and that just went wide.
I know, and you always back Louise in them situations.
Big time, just to even hit the target.
Should you be happy with a narrow defeat against a really good opposition?
No.
Not when you feel like you could have got a draw. Felt like a draw was a fair result.
Any defeat, it doesn't
and
matter
it came from a penalty.
I feel like it's just, especially in a tournament, we needed to make a goal there.
I feel the positivity is justified, but you can't help but think
it's totally justified.
Yeah,
I don't want to be negative
because I think Ireland really did warrant a draw.
Yeah.
Really did. If you look at the stats as well, they had very similar number of shots. Australia shaded shots overall and shots on target just.
Yeah.
And they were much better with completed passes. Our passing wasn't great at times. But other than that, if you had never seen either side play before or didn't know anything about them or the status of both sides, you would think it's a pretty even game.
Which is great to see, and they'll take so much confidence from that now.
Big time. The
brilliant
Canada game is so big now.
Yeah. And the result last night that went our way. So absolutely, they'll take a hell of a lot from it and be able to push on. But yeah, there is positivity from it, and I think we need to keep positive about it.
100%.
The girls are playing in their first ever World Cup. You could see when they walked out and Eamonn Cregan playing, it was spine tingling stuff.
Oh my God! In the tunnel beforehand.
Yeah.
When Courtney Brosnan broke a smile, couldn't help it, and Megan Connolly behind her, they just that kind of smile where you just can't believe how amazing
I'll be larking.
The situation
she was
you're in.
beaming on the bench, and the camera panned to her, and she realised she was on the TV, and she smiled and said, I think it was Louise Quinn was next to her, and she just was or Lucy Quinn was next to her, and she was just we're on the TV, we're on the
someone's
TV.
pointed out Fartonstown Forlan has been in touch. Great to hear from you as always. Did you notice Little John, Carusa and Shiva belting out our Eamonn yesterday? Good on them. A squad of role models and pride ambassadors for our nation. Rusha and Nishanin, I think he's trying to come up with the Irish for Little John. That's great to see. Obviously Irish wouldn't have been a language they'd maybe learned in school, I presume, so to be belting out our Eamonn like
same
the rest
with Sinead Farley, Marissa Shiva.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's a big thing. Same for the Irish rugby team. Bundy Aki did the same.
You pointed this out, Colin. You've got on the front page of The Guardian, no less,
of all things,
across the water, we've got a group of young Irish fans in despair after a missed chance, I think, watching in Dublin. I had one of the watch parties yesterday out in the open air.
What an interesting choice.
They're all taking an interest in us.
From the editor of The Guardian, the front page of the newspaper.
Love to see that. Buzz Aldrin advertising watches on the back. There you go.
Buzz, is it?
Buzz,
I wouldn't pick Buzz out of a lineup now, I have to say.
Landing anniversary Omega. There you go. Free advertisement for them. But unreal.
Yeah.
Great to see that.
Class. Anya Gorman, to Emma here is pointing out in the live doc, was belting out the anthem and smiling at the same time. But you could just tell it going through, and you could see the tears welling up in Katie McCabe's eyes, and it's just it's very emotional for the whole country.
I got so emotional. I never thought I would. I knew it means a lot and the whole lot, but people used to sort of ask him before, will you cry and all this? I'm like, cry? No, I don't think so. Honestly, I was fighting back tears.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Just felt like such a pivotal moment. To see the girls walk out, 75,000 people. There's moments I thought this would never ever happen. Growing up, I didn't know anything about it. A women's 100%. Irish football team.
You wouldn't have even thought of it.
No.
Which is that's on all of us, but especially on all the people that put the women's football in the back burner and put it behind the men's game and look at where they're at now. It's unbelievable. Liberty Hall was only 2017, and to have that moment yesterday was just incredible.
And I think also because we're working on it, and so you're always planning what's the next thing, so you're almost stumbling into the national anthems, and then you just take a step back and realise this is to be enjoyed as well as prepared for. It's this is incredible.
The comments are flying in on this, so we'll get to a few of those. Christopher Henry says, first time listening to OTB AM this week, rarely miss even when on holidays, but worth the absence this week. Officially a viable member of a guest appearance on Dadcast now. Chris, congratulations. Ballymcguigan South Derry man, I'm pretty sure, Chris. Congrats to yourself and the other half on the new arrival. Loads of comments on the match as well. Carl Daly pointed out, we need Australia to win all their games and we need a point off Canada, which will leave it a shootout for a spot against Nigeria. That would be...
Yeah, it's actually teed up nicely.
Yeah,
if we lose to Canada, are we gone?
Depends on the other game.
Yeah, it'll just depend on other games.
Okay, so we'll keep an eye on that.
And there's loads of time for people to jump on this bandwagon. If you missed the game yesterday for whatever reason and you didn't really make a fuss about it, or you didn't put any green on or hang out a flag or anything like that, absolutely there's time. Wednesday is the next game. I'd absolutely urge everybody to get on board. And
1:00 Irish time next Wednesday.
Canada. If you have a young person in your life for that, just let them know what's happening.
I saw an overheard in Dublin. Well, my buddy sent it on to me, right? There was a guy yesterday went to the pub to watch the Australia game 11 a.m. and he had the suit on and a lanyard from work, and he goes, give us a Heineken there, but put it into a 0-0 glass.
I'd say there was a few people doing that, all right.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah, I heard that a lot around the bar in Cork. Is it too early? It's never too early.
No, not too early.
But this lad was fucking hiding it from his boss, like.
Yeah.
The boss is with
See,
him.
time is a construct of human perception, not least when World Cups come around. When World Cups come around, time does not matter, because it could be in South Korea and Japan, it could be in Australia, New Zealand, and we just don't care what time. If last night's match if the game was at 3 a.m, we all would have got up and watched without a shadow of a doubt. Greg Caffrey says Quinn's header at the end, free header with great effort.
Yeah, there wasn't an awful lot of pace in the cross from McCabe. It was a bit looped. Speaking of crosses from McCabe, her corners were wicked.
Yeah,
like directly onto Arnold and goal, who I think got a few soft frees, to be honest. I think 2 of the first 4 corners she got frees out.
Big time.
And Connolly's corners on the other side and the right hand side were good. I like that tactic that they didn't just have McCabe on both sides.
Yeah, keep them guessing.
Outswinging would have been no good for us on the left hand side. The other thing as well is, like I talked about, I wish McCabe was further up the pitch. Can't help but think Connolly in midfield would be also helpful,
because she's a baller.
but look, she's
seriously.
also very good at the back.
Yeah.
And the back 3 are
solid.
tight, tight.
Yeah, and we wouldn't have conceded. Like, was it Ciara Caruso? I was chatting to Kathleen, I think, after the match, and she was asking her what was said at half time, and Vera was just like, this game will be decided by one moment, one mistake, one moment.
That's
I've seen Vera saying that in her
so
post-match.
interesting that you brought that up.
It was one
because I noted that line when she spoke to Tony Donaldfoot afterwards on RT, and I think Kathleen was talking to Lucy Quinn and I think Caruso after the match too. I think we have that on our podcasts. I think Caruso also said that, because I think Kathleen asked Kyra what was said at half time, so that was mentioned again. I thought that was very interesting. Why would you say that?
I think that will keep a player on their toes the entire duration of the half.
I don't think it's a great thing to say, right? No. Because if you say this game is going to be decided in one moment, i.e. don't make a mistake,
you have to be able to make mistakes.
Yeah, that's one thing. Also, the penalty was scored after 52 minutes, so 8 minutes into the second half, right?
Well, I wouldn't have been thinking of it in a negative light.
Well, that's not one moment then.
Yeah, but if she's saying this game is going to be decided in one moment, then when you're attacking, you're like, this is it.
I think this game can be won in one moment, yes, but the wording was
maybe
a mistake is going to decide this game.
Well, maybe that wasn't the wording. I'm not sure. Although it was that what Caruso said.
I think it was Vera Pauw said it afterwards. Yeah, in her post match. Yeah, one mistake, and that's what happened. That was what she said.
And it was but it was a silly foul. That was.
It was a penalty all day. Like, I saw some people saying it was a bit soft. It was a tangling of legs. I mean,
I do think there was a tangling of legs, but she put her 2 hands.
That was the thing.
She fouled her twice.
Once you do that and you're in the box, it's going to be penalty all day.
If it was the other way around, we would have been gone.
Oh yeah, it was
it's absolutely a penalty, but I do think she was unfortunate with her legs. But what was she doing back there?
I know.
Okay, yeah, but look, that happens. Like, they were switching all the time. McCabe and Kathleen was saying she was noticing it in the stadium with Sinead O'Carroll too, that there was a lot of switching going on between the two, and that she was quite small and not defensively minded, so she was in an unfortunate position there. It's not to say that McCabe wouldn't have tangled legs with Rasso either. Like, you know.
Bruce Robbo fan club says on the YouTube comments, execution of Irish play in the game, apart from a couple of decent corners and one free kick, was so infuriating. Very little quality in the game beyond Denise O'Sullivan.
Yeah, I wouldn't entirely disagree with that. I thought the passing was a bit off at times. I thought we grew into it a bit. Again, I think the performance equated like the men's team at World Cups previously, when we've done well, is that it's real backs against the wall job. Very, very organised, very tough to break down. But you just wish for a bit more football, and especially with this team where there are footballers in the team. That's why I think O'Sullivan was trying probably a bit too hard as the footballer in the team kind of thing, that she has to try and play around with the ball. I thought Little John did okay. I thought she did well enough. I don't think that necessarily to be a change there. Maybe ideally I'd like Connolly in midfield and another defender brought in. And then I know you're taking a huge risk taking McCabe out of a left wing back position when she has responsibility for that flank, because you saw Australia target header playing on the other side.
But she did well.
She did well. Yeah, she did well.
I thought she did well.
I think Vine was having some joy against her. That's why Faraday was doing well too, covering for Payne at times. You know,
Tony Gustafsson, by the way, the Australian manager, like, the cheek of him. The night before the game, he's talking about he says, I've identified an Irish weakness.
Well, and he said it unprompted.
He did, and then all of a sudden you see them attacking that Payne's wing
straight away.
So that clearly is where they were identifying the weakness. But like, That's a bit cheeky. Richie was pointing out in the show last night in the news round. I was listening to him and he was saying like it was very Brendan Rodgers-esque. But it was like, it's like nobody's asked you, have you identified an Irish weakness? He's just gone and said it.
Yeah.
Which I thought was mind games maybe from Gustafsson, a bit cheeky.
Look, there were no great shakes. Nothing to be afraid of.
Look, they were missing
Sam Kerr.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, but I mean, like, what's it? Emma was saying there this morning in the office. It was like, no Sam Kerr, so that was a big chance. Like,
massive.
And it was
chance.
a big chance.
Yeah, that's why we needed to get the draw, especially with Sam Kerr.
And what about her poker face in the press conference? Like, she knew at that point she was not playing because it happened in the last training session she did her calf. So she knew at that point she wasn't going to be playing.
They were asking her what celebration she was going to do, and she was like, I don't know.
God, yeah, terrible situation for her. Obviously, you don't like to see any player in a World Cup, but it was a massive boost for Ireland.
Huge. When that
Mary Fowler came in, and what a player as well. And like, she has her Irish connections. Her dad's from Ballymud.
Yeah.
Her granddad's still living in Dublin.
2 sisters played for Ireland, didn't they?
And she nearly did.
Yeah.
She very nearly did. So, yeah, that's another one lost.
Unbelievable. We should mention them as well. A couple of the Irish clubs were in action in Europe last night as well. So to go around the groups, I get Derry City 1, HP Tórshavn 0. So Derry continuing their Europa Conference League campaign. Salah Diallo, the only goal. So Rory Higgins' team booking their place in second qualifying round. They're going to play the Finnish lead leaders Cups next Thursday evening. Cups KUPS. I love this one. In the first leg in that game. The other games last night, Pats not doing enough to get through Diddling, beating them, so 3-2 on the night to Diddling, 5-3 in aggregate. A remarkable own goal which will live long in the memory. They got one of the goals for Pat, so
it's on the front page there somewhere.
Real.
I don't even know how you explain what happened.
He's headed the ball backwards.
What a header.
The keeper comes out and heads the ball into his own goal. It was bizarre. Sold out crowd for that Pats game last night, and I mean diddling, look, whatever it is, they went 2-0 up and you're thinking tie over, but then that goal happens and it's a sniff maybe for Pats, but in the end the away side doing enough to progress, and Dundalk surviving a little bit of a scare from Bruno's Magpies to advance. So some nervy moments at Oriel Park, but they've booked a Europa Conference League second qualifying round date with K.A. Akureyri of Iceland next week. A 3-1 win at Oriel Park last night, and they drew 0-0 of course in Victoria Stadium a week ago. So 3-1 had finished. Patrick Hubin giving them a lead after 3 minutes of last night's game. So not bad for the Irish teams last night. Pats maybe not included in there, but at least a couple of teams are progressing.
Yeah.
Because especially after the Shamrock Rovers performances, you were there, like Ash, and they were, I don't know what happened to them in that tie, but they were poor.
Yeah, and I think they'll be very disappointed. You know, they probably wanted to go one further even this year. Like they had done so well last year, but even just financially for clubs, you know, it's massive. Yeah. You know, that'll be probably a big thing too. So yeah, I think they'll be very, very disappointed. But yeah, not great performances though.
We mentioned Bruno's Magpies, but Bruno Fernandes, of course, takes.
That's why you're there. Like, you know what? That's why you're sitting there.
The big boxes.
Enjoying the coffee.
Yeah.
Sitting there.
Listen, thanks for the coffee this morning, by the way, Colm. I'll leave it there.
Did you not bring it in?
I did, yeah.
I see the coffee. It's instant. It's instant coffee. Instant Braeburn coffee.
Oh, we did get it for you.
Yeah.
We did.
Oh, sorry. You nearly forgot. I had to remind.
Yeah. Bruno Fernandes named as the new club captain for Manchester United.
Do you know what? We were sitting here on a Monday morning doing performance rankings months ago. The morning after Liverpool hammered United at Anfield 7-0, and I think Nathan was co-hosting, right? And Nathan put out the question: should Bruno Fernandes ever captain Manchester United again, based on his histrionics in the second half? And look at him now, months later, named the permanent captain after Harry Maguire was dropped. I'm not delighted about it. From
but he was the only.
That feels like he was the only option.
I'm not sure if he was.
Who else? Who you picked? Luke Shaw,
Raphael Varane.
Oh, Varane,
Martinez.
Varane, maybe. Yeah, I can see.
Casemiro.
Is Casemiro's English? I presume his English.
It'll be good enough. He'd speak Portuguese to enough.
And Antonio Valencia, captain United, with a couple of words.
I'm sure he'd be fine. I just like Fernandes, fine player, done loads for United. His statistics are off the charts. He always gets himself involved. He never goes hiding, really. A lot to admire. Not sure I'd follow him into battle.
Yeah.
That's all I'd say.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't follow Harry Maguire into battle either, potentially. Also, Andrea Onana has taken the number 24 shirt at Manchester United.
Iconic number 24.
He wears 23 for Cameroon, I think. Vic hating the number 1 jersey. I don't know, is that it?
Respect.
To the great DDG. It could be a ploy, there's a lot of pressure at Manchester United to be a United goalkeeper. As someone said recently, did Roy Keane or Gary Neville say it in the overlap? They said that the Manchester United goalkeeping position is the most pressurised position in world football, which is
it's most scrutinised.
Yeah, fair shout. So maybe not taking the number 1 jersey is Onana going.
The most scrutinised, yeah, it's up there for sure.
So it's an interesting decision. I know jersey numbers don't really matter, but like there's still a little bit of intrigue.
It might just be a preference. Sure. Rui Patricio, when he was at Wolves, he took mad number, didn't he? But that was more in tribute to a previous goalkeeper. But yeah, like shirt numbers for goalkeepers. Sure, we've long moved on number 1s,
Exactly.
But look, it could be the making of Fernandes in terms of like he could tone down the ranting and raving and gesticulation to his teammates, and maybe like, well, I'm captain now. A bit like actually Katie McCabe said in the Players Tribune article this week, which is like she had never captained anyone, which is so mad to get then being named Irish senior captain. And she said, look, she wasn't ready, but she had to act like she was ready. And maybe it'll be a bit like this for Fernandes. Look, I'm actually the leader now permanently. I can't be going on like I'm going on. I'll tone it down towards my teammates. He'll probably put it all on the ref now in the opposition.
It probably will help things.
And sometimes that's why you're made captain in a way. They think they see something in you, but also maybe it'll calm you down and put into the player that they think you're going to be.
Yeah, big time.
That's right. Patricio wore 11 at Wolves, Mark Dunning.
Oh, that's strange.
Yeah, but there was a reason. It was, I can't remember now. It was a tribute to a goalkeeper.
I should mention as well, there's Rory O'Connor has a piece in the Irish Independent this morning, which is bad news for the Irish women's rugby team, because Nicola Friday, the captain, is believed to be on the cusp of announcing her retirement from international rugby. So she of course led Ireland through the Six Nations campaign this year. Very, very tough Six Nations campaign. The Offaly woman looks set to focus on her club career. Rory is reporting with Exeter Chiefs, with whom she reached the Premier 15s final earlier this month. So she's got 34 caps for Ireland, debut in 2016, played at the Rugby World Cup in 2017. That would be huge news if that happens. So she's only 28. Ciara Griffin, of course, retiring at 27 a couple of years ago as well. So bit of a blow. Yeah, big blow. And I wonder, does it come into the contracts? And obviously girls are training professionally. Other girls are obviously opted to keep their jobs, because obviously financially it makes more sense. It could be something like that to do with it as well, because they're training full time and then you're coming from work and trying to fit into this setup. I often wonder, how does that work in the long term? So that is such a blow, because she had such a tough Six Nations campaign. She was always the first up front in for in front of the media, and she did so well at that role at a very tough time. And what a player as well. She had to step in there. There was a lot of retirements and she stepped up to the plate, and that's not great news to hear. No, big news. Keep the comments coming in on the YouTube channel as well. Damon Hanley says, Shane, the Aussies are extremely confident in every walk of life and not afraid to let you know. Try listening to their rugby commentary on Fox. Bias is something to behold. I've heard the Aussie commentators weren't that impressed with some of Katie McCabe's tackling on their coverage yesterday. In fairness, McCabe could have seen a soft red at the end of the half. It would have been a bit harsh. It was probably an amber card, but I was shocked that VAR didn't look at that. Like she went in. She was definitely, I don't know. Yeah, she was lucky at times, but at the same time. I know she was targeted. She was that's totally, and she was, and she must have been annoyed about it. But that tackle, I was got a bit lucky there. But also we love Katie for that's why the battle that she had with Rosso was unbelievable. It was brilliant. Yeah, we wouldn't want to lose that. And then Denise O'Sullivan probably unfairly got booked. I know, and she didn't know what was happening, and it was that was for Katie, but you're unfortunate here. Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't want Katie to dilute any of her aggression either. We need a bit of that. Should mention 8:03 AM on this Friday morning's OTB AM, the sports breakfast show, and Off the Ball with you live until 10 o'clock this morning as per usual. I should mention Off the Ball is coming to the Cork Podcast Festival. Join us on Sunday the 27th of August in the Cork Opera House. Jimmy Barry Murphy will be there, plus a few other famous faces to be announced. For tickets, go to corkpodcastfestival.ie/off-the-ball. After the break, we're going to digest the Republic of Ireland's defeat to Australia. More with Linda Gorman live in studio. First though, here's Aisling here speaking with Denise O'Sullivan's Ireland's Mam Nuala in Cork yesterday.
Nuala, you must be so proud of Denise, and what a performance out there today as well.
Oh, it was fantastic. I'm so proud of her. Even with the injury she had during the week, she played so well.
And when you heard she got the injury, what was that like?
Oh, we were devastated. But she came back, and cause she's strong. Denise is very strong, and she came back.
She did, absolutely. You can see it in her play. How strong she is. It's a brilliant crowd that's out here today.
Oh my God, it was fantastic. Brilliant.
Oh, it's amazing. And there's so many of you.
There is just too many of us.
A big clan. It's great to see. And there is hope. It was a 1-0 defeat today, but they played well and they're up against
They did. So next week now, hopefully,
fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And did you always know that Denise would go on and play for Ireland?
Always, because she was like that. Even when she was younger, she was out in the park above and play soccer with all the boys. And that was her dream.
Yeah,
it was her dream to go for Ireland, and she's there today.
Unbelievable. And what age did she start playing?
She played when she was about 5. Out in the park with her brothers now. Fantastic.
You've had a lovely going away for her. It was out in the field where she grew up playing.
Oh, it was brilliant. Fantastic. The crowds were unbelievable. She couldn't believe it.
No.
It was brilliant. Brilliant for her. I'm so proud of her. All the girls, they all done very well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you had a message for them, what would you say?
I'd say, well done, girls. I'm so proud of the whole lot of it. Yeah.
Thanks, Nuala. Thank you so much.
OTB AM.
The countdown to the World Cup is on.
And it is Captain Fantastic, Katie McCabe, who has scored it.
Off the ball, cheering on the girls in green.
OTB AM.
The Sports Breakfast Show from Off the Ball.
Yeah, 6 minutes past 8 on this Friday morning's OTB AM, the Sports Breakfast Show and Off the Ball. We're going to digest the game now further with Linda Gorman, the former Irish international player and manager. Linda, good morning.
Morning.
How are we keeping?
I'm great, thank you.
So enough time has passed now for us to properly, I guess, have a think about how we feel about yesterday morning. But disappointing result considering the bombardment of the Aussie goal that happened late on, and we were hoping and expecting a goal. But all the same, you have to be proud of them.
Well, yesterday morning, had I been asked what would my prediction be, I would not have been able to answer, simply because you really don't know how players are going to play on the day. I like to take about 15-20 minutes to see are people how they're managing on the pitch against their opponent, and how the flow is going and what type of systems they're playing. And then yesterday, I suppose most people didn't give us much of a chance if you look at the track record of Australia. Having said that, I know they missed Kerr, but having said that, our girls were so committed all over the pitch, and a great indication of that was, I don't know if anybody else noticed, but I thought it was remarkable that the Aussie centre halves were putting the ball straight down the middle to our central defenders, because obviously we were getting no joy on the wings, the flanks, and that was just it was just wonderful to watch. And as the time was going by and the Aussies weren't scoring, because we had them really contained in the first third, excuse me, my only disappointment was that we left, I thought, and it's not a criticism, it's just an observation, because football is a matter of opinion. I would have loved to see us push players forward a little sooner, because once that happened, Katie McCabe pushed up. We actually bombarded him. Absolutely bombarded him.
And Katie is dangerous in front of goal.
Passionate.
We were only talking about it if we just had her that bit closer.
Fearless, and not only herself, the other players, because what happens is that if you see somebody doing it, you'll do it. So it sort of runs right across the whole team, particularly up front, because we were desperate to score a goal. The corners, I was slightly disappointed in terms of where they were aimed for. Like the keeper got a couple of them. You try to probably put it in anywhere between the penalty box and the 6 yard,
Yes.
so that you sort of try to commit the goalkeeper, and you know the goalkeeper's not going to get off the line. But if you have the likes of Louise Quinn up there, she'll absolutely,
her strength and her height.
Yeah, and she's fearless as well. She doesn't care what's in front of her.
We were talking about it this morning, Linda, but Amber Barrett not coming off the bench. Like, I thought it was bizarre, and we were saying this morning that, like, using Louise Quinn and pushing her forward in that sense almost feels like it should be a last resort. But were you surprised to see Amber Barrett not?
I was very surprised, and all my friends, because all my friends are ex-international players, they were absolutely astounded, simply because she is such a goal-orientated player, and she does have the physique to match their defenders. She's not easily pushed off the ball, and as well as that, she just has this drive, to go and attack their back line, in terms of looking for really good opportunities to score a goal. So it was quite a surprise. Now I was happy to see Abby Larkin on, but I hope Abby will look back at it and see the things she should have done. I'm not criticising her in any way, but she looked a little bit lost as to where she should put the ball or what she should do, and one of the crosses I thought was a little bit weak.
Well, it's incredible, like 18 years of age, and I was saying that she almost the whole way through the game was beaming, like she couldn't believe where she was. Even coming on, she was like smiling as she was coming on, and which is so nice to see. But that'll stand to her,
Absolutely, because if you look at the Aussies, I mean, Kerr was 15 when she debuted for the senior team, and most of the others on average were 17. So, and it's good because she was put in a position that she could sort of be protected. She wasn't a defender, and if things went wrong, if her head goes down at such a young age, she mightn't have been able to recover. At the same time, she does have an immense amount of ability, and she's lovely skill, and she looks the player.
Doesn't she? She's a proper little baller. When we were talking just about Amber Barrett and not coming on, did you like to see Louise Quinn getting pushed forward? Do you think that's the right call?
Actually, Amber Barrett coming on, to me, we all expected her to come on because she always gives so much. She's very exciting, she'll run her butt off for the rest of the team. I was a bit quite not disappointed, just an odd call, I thought.
One really positive thing, and I think to take from it, is that I guess a lot of people in advance were talking about the 80,000 seater stadium. Was the occasion going to be too big for some of these players? First World Cup game against the hosts and everything that came with it, and there was so much talk. Even Shabana Hearn was talking with us months ago about that moment when the national anthem was going to be played in front of such a big stadium. Like, the players dealt with the occasion remarkably well. I know that they didn't get the result, but it didn't feel like any of them were overawed.
See, they're sort of cocooned, I would imagine, and of course they have psychologists and whoever talking to them, getting into their head, and they get very emotional, believe it or not, every time the national anthem is played. So yesterday was no different. So I would imagine, and it showed, it lifted them. So the occasion, they weren't overawed by the occasion, because they battled to keep the Aussies out of the game, and actually quite disappointed in the Aussies. So when, an hour before kick-off, when the Sam Kerr news comes through, obviously from an Irish perspective we're all going, deadly. This is class. This is a relief, not having to deal with a player of that calibre. Is there a flip side to that whereby you've prepared for Sam Kerr for so long, you're thinking about Australia with Sam Kerr, and then all of a sudden she's taken out of the equation? Can it be off-putting? Could it be off-putting from an Irish perspective then to be like, okay, well, it's not the Australia we thought we were preparing for whatsoever? Like, is there any negative to be taken from a player of Sam Kerr's quality being taken out? If I'd flip that for you and say it more affected the Aussies than it did the Irish.
Yeah.
And again, she plays in England, so some of the girls know her style and know what to do. But I think the Aussies were more affected psychologically that she wasn't on the pitch.
Yeah, because other players had to step up.
I think going forward for them, they missed her. But when we were talking about the out on Naveen, what was it like for you watching? Like, obviously all these years that you spent, getting the girls to where they are, a lot of them, and to watch them go out in a World Cup, was it emotional?
Oh, absolutely. I was just saying to the guys that I nearly needed a nice bath because I played every position where every player was. And that's what happens. You're just so immersed in it. Around Naveen, it's the same for the girls, same for everybody. Once it's aired, it's very emotional. We were very emotional.
It was an unbelievable occasion. We were chatting earlier as well. Tony Gustafsson, the Australian manager, had been talking the night before about targeting an area of Irish weakness, and he'd said he'd identified an area of Irish weakness. We figured that was Heather Payne's wing, where they kept targeting relentlessly in the first half, but dealt with it fairly well. They were clearly trying very specific things, the Aussies, but it just wasn't working out.
It wasn't, because she was also getting support, so she wasn't isolated on her own out there, and she's great pace. That's one thing that's very noticeable about her. But as I go back to what I said originally, they abandoned going down the wings for straight balls down the middle, which I thought was really extraordinary. Because you've got Little John there, and then you have Louise Quinn. I just didn't know what they were trying to get out, that type of stuff. I didn't know whether they were testing. And then, of course, Brosnan isn't behind, and she's a powerhouse.
Yeah.
Did you make of the Katie McCabe and Hayley Russo battle at many times? They were going at it.
It's a doddle for Katie. Absolute doddle. She had her in her. She really had her in her back pocket, and when you need to be aggressive, Katie can be very aggressive, but not in a way that you want to injure the bear. It's just her passion to win the ball, and we're all like that, and it was so vital yesterday because she set the tone, because if she can do it, everybody else should be able to do it. Having said that, Denise O'Sullivan was, for me, phenomenal. The ground she covered, the tackles she put in. I know at the end players were getting tired because you could see the first touch that wasn't as close as it should be. It was sort of running away from them a little bit. But if you measure that against the amount of work that they did, and when you look at the final 20 minutes and they sort of stepped up another gear, it was just great. I was very proud, really proud.
Really, really strong performance. I guess these games are often decided on one little incident, one little moment, and the penalty incident, Linda, it was, was a little bit naive from Marissa Shiva. Probably if she had the time back, obviously she wouldn't lay her hands.
You see, when you looked at her first, the angle we seen her first, she fell over. She looked as if the girl got tied in her feet, but if you look at from the other angle, she had her hands on her before it happened, and then
they had no choice.
No choice. It looked bad.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
She didn't mean to do that.
Yeah.
But it was a penalty.
It was a penalty. You couldn't, because they're giving penalties for everything now. They can't, if the ball hits off you, it's a penalty. If your hand, it's a penalty. So that's absolutely obvious. It quite annoys me at times, because if you look at the men's game, she put her hands on the player. In the men's games, they wrap themselves around the players, and nothing is given. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, the decision making.
Yeah.
It was very tough for her, and she was in the dugout after, and you could see the tears streaming down her face, and God, you wouldn't like to be in that position, but hopefully she can, take from it in a sense and move on, that these things are going to happen. It's football, mistakes are going to happen. It's just unfortunate for her it was her this time.
Our biggest learnings in life are our biggest mistakes. She will have learned from that. In our day, you used your body, you didn't sort of use your hands, but you used your body pretty well. Do you know what I'm saying? And this hand stuff, you can put your hands up, not like that, but like that.
Yes.
There's ways around it, but it's just unfortunate. It just happened. I sort of wondered, because why was she in there anyway?
This is what we were just talking about.
Covering Katie McCabe is what some people were suggesting, that Katie was slightly out of position. She had to run back. I don't know is the answer, but it was just one of those things. Very often, if there's one criticism of the Irish team, it's that sometimes concentration for 90 minutes doesn't happen. They can switch off for a minute or two, and that's all it takes for a little moment like that. And in a World Cup game where you end up losing 1-0, that miniature lapse in concentration is all it takes sometimes.
That's it. Yeah, it's just one little mistake, one tiny mistake, that you are switched off, and that happens across football.
Yeah.
It's not just for us, it's for everybody else.
The bench, albeit Abba Barrett didn't leave the bench, but even Lucy Quinn, I thought was good when she came on and added something different.
She did. I think we might have had an opportunity with her when she came on. She when you weigh herself up with Larkin, she produced better stuff when she came on. Could be because she's a little bit more experienced, but you have to also add on that we were pushing them, we were pressurising them. We'd released players now, like Katie McCabe now wasn't at the back, she was pushing on, and other players were pushing on. I mean, we so bombarded them that when I was looking at their defenders, they were so happy just to kick the ball anywhere. Just clear it. Yeah.
Do you think that Vera might take anything from that last, say, 15, where they actually were attacking and, as you said, released players? They were allowed to go and on the front foot and play.
Well, I think the first call for Vera is, let's defend, and maybe we can get a goal on the break. But it's not my way of playing, like leaving a lone player up front. I mean, you'd have to be Pele or Maradona, on your own up there to be able to take 3 or 4 players on.
Yeah.
It's a very tough, lonely place to be, and it's when it changed. And I'm not sure if Vera's going to change again, because we have Canada now. Canada,
Olympic champions.
Olympic champions. But they played Nigeria.
Threw Nigeria overnight, nil, which is a good result potentially for us.
Great.
Just means get something out of the Canada game and then beat the Nigerians.
And I didn't see the game. I'm just wondering if the Nigerians were as physical.
From what I've heard, apparently so. Very, very physical at the back. Counter-attacking is very, very good as well. Obviously that game was in the middle of the night, so I didn't get to watch it myself, but by and large all the reports seem to be suggesting that Nigeria were probably good for a draw. Christine Sinclair obviously misses the penalty. Good save by the Nigerian keeper, but Jesus, we'll take that sort of result all day long.
We will. It's great for us. Canada, I would say, would not be happy at all. Be happy.
There's a theme in the YouTube comments, and it's similar to what we're chatting about here. Danny Mac 1 says, Ireland are hard to break down, but by God, we won't be breaking anyone down either. Need to get McCabe up the field. And Richard Melia says, no expert, but should we not find a way to get McCabe further up the field and more involved? Her and Denise O'Sullivan are class. That is the solution here, isn't it?
Well, it was difficult for me to look at the line out and see McCabe so far back. She's very good. She'd play in any position for Vera, but it doesn't add to our attacking ability when we have to restrict her to where she is, to a defender. It doesn't add. Yet when she is released, the difference it makes, and it also encourages other players to push forward as well, because we'd quite an amount of players forward yesterday on the final push, 10-15 minutes. I was saying, God, if the Aussies launch a ball down, we're going to be caught.
Because Heather Payne was on that wing. She was bombing forward. But she was really effective. But I know what you mean. You're like, I hope I don't get caught in behind now at the same time. But no, I think Katie, when she's pushing forward, you really see her attributes. Like,
she pushes. And when we are pushing forward, what's her name in the middle? Denise. She sees gaps and spaces, and she can release just the right ball if you have more than one player up front.
Well, that's the thing. On Ciara Carusa, her hold-up play often is very, very good. So much so that at times you saw Niamh Fahey and Megan Connolly advancing fairly high up because her hold-up play was brilliant. But it's, as we said this morning, it's tough work for Carusa because she's up there by herself.
She's a lone player up there, and sometimes if we play an early ball, you can't get up there fast enough because the ball is travelling away from you and you're trying to catch up with the ball and support the player up front. It was quite tough for her yesterday.
You were watching the match in Dalymount?
Yeah, it was.
What
fantastic.
Was that like?
The atmosphere was fantastic. And the big screen with my buddies, it was great. It was just great. On our tops and shouting and screaming and roaring, and the atmosphere was great. It was just great.
Did you ever foresee a day where this will be happening? Like, of course we foresaw it, and eventually down the line we wanted the Irish teams to start qualifying for major tournaments, but it's maybe happened I want to say ahead of schedule, possibly, that we've got to this point now that there's no turning back. Like you see that we mentioned earlier, the front page of the Guardian and all the papers with young kids, watching the matches at some of these parties, and like the impact this is going to have, we probably won't realise or feel until the next generation of players comes along.
Well, it never would have happened if the Liberty 14 or 16 hadn't stood up. It would never have happened, because if you think about it, 2 years, and I'm sure they went down every possible avenue they could, and had no just couldn't go anywhere. It was the final step. They had to stand up, and that was very important. But it took 40 years, 45 years, but it made a difference. FAI got behind them, and it just goes to show, if the resources are there, what you can do.
100%. And you even look at World Cups, say the World Cup after the next one, even in whatever 8 years time, like 10-year-olds there, like there's some girls in that look maybe 10 years old, and in 8 years time they'll be Abby Larkin's age, so like the next generation is going to be unbelievable. And even Abby Larkin,
that's what I was thinking.
She'll be 26 in 8 years time.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably in her prime.
But if you look at the Aussie team, I mean, they're not young. They were quite.
No, their bench.
But even the players on the pitch, like, really, and that's a good age for women. Like, it mightn't be for men. I'm not sure why, but for women, for some reason or other, 30s is great. Great time in life. You don't lose any energy. You actually get better. Be quite honest with you. The joy of all this and what the girls have done is all these academies that are coming up. The interest with the girls. I really would now like the FAI to get behind the type of futsal skill stuff at a very, very early age, because that's the type of skill we need to match the teams that we're playing against, because technically on paper, and even when you look at them, they are ahead of us. And we need to catch up with them, and you can only do it from a small age, a young age, where you're developing those type of stuff.
Technically, isn't it? People were, even this week, we're talking about the Limerick hurlers ahead of the All-Ireland final this weekend, and they're maybe just technically slightly better with the smaller skills. It's probably the same with the Irish team. Like, if we can get to a level where the difference between Ireland and Australia probably is very, very small, but it's just the small technical things maybe that they do slightly better than us.
Across the pitch. It's not just by one or two players. It's across the pitch that you do it, and it is the thing that makes the difference between really top side.
Do you feel like there's enough buzz about, Linda? Did you feel that yesterday?
There's enough buzz among us. I'm not sure it is, because people talked quite a lot about not having enough buntings up, and the media have done everything they possibly could. It's just needed. I think people were looking for a visible show by Manon Heron. To get out there and make sure that they're supporting the girls.
Before we let you go, Linda, how do you see the group going now? Can we get a result against Canada?
I'm very positive now. Like the results yesterday with Nigeria and Canada, and the fact that it was just marginal between us and Australia. So I'm very optimistic now. And I'm sure the Irish players are.
100%.
That's the right way to be, isn't it?
Exactly. No, we love to hear it. Linda, thanks for popping in again.
Very welcome.
As per usual, Linda Gorman there, Irish legend, I think it's fair to say. After the break, we'll have Tommy Walsh in studio with us, previewing Kilkenny Limerick this weekend. First out, more from Aislinn in Cork yesterday with the O'Sullivans, this time speaking with Denise O'Sullivan's sister, Melissa. Have a look.
Melissa, you're Denise O'Sullivan's sister. You must be so proud of her.
Absolutely very proud, in fairness. Who wouldn't be when your sister's in the World Cup? Win or lose, to be honest. You have to make it that far, so it's great. It's great excitement for the family, friends.
Good performance today, and Denise did so well.
They actually all did well. There was parts where they could have done a bit better probably, but this is the game. This is what it's about. They really came back at the end. I thought there was a goal there.
At the end.
It was just, but look, it didn't happen, and if penalty happened, unfortunately, this is what it's all about.
It is, absolutely. And you could even see when some of the girls were walking out, they were taking deep breaths. Abby Larkin was coming on, she was beaming. Like, this
brilliant.
is a big moment.
It's absolutely, sure, it's history.
Yeah.
So it's great to see it. And all the family and friends, all about the kids as well.
Yeah.
Kids love it.
Tell us a little bit about the family. There's a lot of you here, a lot of nieces and nephews
There
as well.
is. I'm the eldest of 10.
Very
Denise
good.
is the youngest. There's about 23, 24 nieces and nephews. I'm even losing count at this stage.
Oh, wow. And it's great to have someone like Denise to look up to for all of
They adore her. They absolutely adore her. And it's fabulous. You know, it's great, positive, everything positive, and a great role model.
Because I'd say for growing up for Denise, she didn't have a lot of this to look at. You know, she didn't have, you know, Ireland in the World Cup.
Of course, there was nothing like that.
No.
But now the women's, hopefully it'll get bigger and better after this. You know,
Absolutely.
it's great. It's fantastic.
And what is the plan for the family now? Will you go out to watch the next game against Canada next week?
We're actually having a big party in Murphy's Rock Bar on the north side. We have a big thing planned up there. It's going to be bigger than what today was. So everyone's welcome, you know, and support them. The more of them every year because they need it.
Brilliant. And will you be talking to Denise now? Maybe tonight or tomorrow?
Tonight, no, probably. Yeah, straight away on the phone. Yeah, it's great.
Brilliant. Well, thanks so much.
No bother at all. Thanks for your
Yeah, great stuff. 8:30 approaching on this Friday morning's OTB AM, the Sports Breakfast Show and Off the Ball. Myself and Aisling with you this morning right through until 10 o'clock. Aisling there speaking, of course, with the O'Sullivan family, Denise O'Sullivan's family, during and after the Irish game against the Aussies yesterday. Time to turn our attention to matters hurling and the All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship final this coming weekend. Tommy Walsh has joined us in studio. Morning, Tommy.
Good morning, Shane.
You were at the roadshow last night, so this is, I mean, what a lineup this was. We had the Hurling Pod live, all ticket proceeds, by the way, going to the Dylan Quirk Foundation and Focus Ireland as well, with Boy Gosh Energy, proud sponsors of the All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship. So it was at the Boy Gosh Energy Theatre. You had yourself, we had Kieran Carey, we had James Scahill and Paul Murphy, of course, Will O'Callaghan present. Like, I mean, what a lineup. Bit of crack, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and big Joe Canning.
Joe Canning, of course, sorry.
It was so much fun and so much hurling talk. Like, just reminds you of the great times you've had, I suppose, because you're reminiscing on times gone past.
Yes.
And whatever about the medals, like, just the kind of laughing and joking really is probably what you remember just as much, and such a vital part for it. And a lot of that was brought up last night.
I can imagine. I was in Kilkenny the night before, or yesterday night, or the night before last, and I was driving through. I was thinking of you, Tullerone on the signs. I was driving from Kilkenny to Murrow in Limerick, and I had such an unbelievable experience in Kilkenny across the 24 hours I was there. Like, it was in Langton's, and I was chatting to Owen Larkin, but the best experience I had, Eddie Kerr came in and he was chatting in Langton's, and I couldn't believe, like, just Eddie Kerr is such a legend, obviously before my time, but the name precedes him obviously in the videos you see of the man.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
Well, sure, listen, I was looking and listening to a few of them podcasts you had, Shane. Like, you probably couldn't have got a better lineup, in fairness. Like her, like, he's up there with the Nicky Rackards and Christy Rings, and, you know, Jimmy Doyle is just an absolute hero to, say, my father's generation that would have seen him.
Yes.
Like the way we now look at Henry and TJ, I say Keane Lynch and these lads, Kerr was their man, you know,
big time.
And before that, obviously, you had Nicky Rackard and Christy Ring and so on. But that's what you were dealing with the other day. Like, they were royalty.
We were talking, even I was with Fran Larkin and Joe Hennessy down at the Village pitch, and we did a bit of an interview there, and I, like, Fran Larkin is some man, like 5'4", I think he is, and like, I couldn't stop laughing at one point because he started talking about how the game needs more hurleys broke, or hurls broke, like, just, he says, back in the day he used to have hurls broke over lads' legs and whatever, and it was brilliant. But now if there's a hurl broke, referee straight away
they're probably just better quality now. Like, it's not as if they're not going in as hard.
Yeah, but Joe Hennessy made the point as well that the paying public, they don't want violence, but they wouldn't mind a couple of hurls been broke over the course of the 70s.
There wasn't as many cameras back then either, or podcasts to talk about it. So if you hit a belt in February or even in a Leinster final, it might be seen, you know, because the only matches were shown that time were kind of All-Ireland finals. When I was watching, say in the early 90s, was All-Ireland finals and All-Ireland semi-finals. So I suppose with the coverage and you're probably trying to set an example for the young people, because, you know, young people will do what they see on telly and they're heroes, so they probably had to tidy it up a small bit. But like, Joe Hennessy was an incredible hurler as well, like wing back, cornerback, like the old days of the over 40s, the Masters hurling. My father played in that. I'm not sure when it was, probably the mid 90s or late 90s, and Daddy was on it, Joe Hennessy was on it, Eddie Kerr was manager. Like, it was just, and Joe Hennessy was as good over 40s as he was when he was hurling himself in the 80s.
He played Masters handball up until...
He won an All-Ireland final there only, I'd say, a couple of months ago. Himself and Johnny Brennan there from Muckalee, because my own fella, a few of us from Tullaroan go in play handball inside in O'Loughlin's. They're great in there to the young fellas, but always just before our slot on a Thursday night, Joe Hennessy and Johnny Brennan are in there. I don't want to give away their ages, but they're not 21 or 22, and they won an All-Ireland final, so it just goes to show, like, you're only as young as you feel. And but Joe is, you probably got that, he's charismatic character.
He's a character.
He's gone in as a selector with Brian Cody now with the Village this year. So Brian has gone in as manager, and Joe, they're only out in Tullaroan there a few weeks gone. Sure, what better role models do you want when you look out to the sideline?
Jeez, I didn't know that. Wow.
Jesus, it's not a bad lineup, management lineup, is it?
You take that.
At club level.
And then Fan's not a selector, but he kind of is as well.
He's the kind of guy around the club. He's just floating around.
He's floating around. Never misses a match.
No,
whether it's under 12 hurling or under 13 in Kilkenny or under 11 or senior tournaments or camogie. Like Philly, his son, would have a lot of daughters involved there in the camogie now as well, and they're heavily involved there. But Fan is like Mr. Village.
Because we were leaving the James Stephens facilities, and there was a young lad pucking around by himself, and Joe was in. He says, Shane, you'll be interviewing this young lad, I don't know his name, in a few years, and he was just one of the, I think he was maybe a minor or 21 maybe player, 20s player, but he was getting ready to play Ballygunner, I think, in some match yesterday evening and for the club, and Joe was shouting over at Fan when they were leaving, saying, that match is at whatever time, and Fan's like, I might call down. No one rightly from his voice he was going down, the man clearly lives and breathes it. Like, Fan reminds me, I never saw Fan playing live, but I'd say he was a similar type of player to yourself. I know Fan was a cornerback, but like feisty.
He was, and the great battles with Ray Cummins. Ray Cummins was on the last team of the century, and like Fan, like Ray Cummins, I don't know how Ray Cummins was, probably 6'2" or 6'3", and you saw Fan, but Fan would give it as good as he got. But it was a different game back then. Like, reading the game was huge, because the ball going in out to a full forward, like, it's so measured. But back then you got the ball at the backs, and probably in that time it was ground hurling, so it was just just get out of my area anyway. That was the motto. So when it came down, Fan was brilliant at reading the game. He'd be out in front, he'd be gone before the ball would even be struck, because he'd know from years and years of watching matches and playing matches. And that's the whole, I always call it the Slumdog Millionaire effect. Like, it's not from studying, it's not from learning, it's just from being there and experiencing from a young age, and it just, at that moment in time, it comes into your head and off you go. You know where the ball is going to be.
I was up in Martin Fogarty's house as well, like just outside Castlecomer, and there's a man with a brain for the game. Like, just he would have been selector over yourselves for that era. I think 6 All-Irelands in that era as well. Like, amazing.
Yeah, and he started off probably our age, say myself and Jackie and JJ and Conor Phelan, Brian Dowland, the Kilkenny camogie manager. Like, there was so much of us that went on play senior, starting Martin Fogarty, Mick Dempsey, and he was such a, like, Martin Fogarty was talking out for his club, I'd say, until a couple of years ago as well.
Right.
I was there on the sideline. He used to have a black Cooper helmet. Now, this is when you didn't have to have a face guard. He'd be standing on the sideline with his Comer tracksuit. That's how much he loves the game, and what he has done. But I would remember Martin was, as you know, he's a character, and he's just able to get you to buy into the whole system and the belief and the game and the team and the panel. But say, when you wouldn't know him, would you be worried that, listen, is he maybe a bit of a joker and a bit but when he's involved,
serious,
he's held through both. And our first year involved, like, we never won at an underage, our crop, and he brought us in under 21, then became under 21 manager. I don't know what he managed before that, and we had a great year, and Mick Dempsey was trainer. But the following year, then he sent out a text message, meeting around January, I suppose, meeting in, I think it was the Spring Hill that time, and hardly anyone texted him back, and he saw that as us getting complacent. He said, last year I text back within 2 minutes. Now only maybe 10 of the whatever panel text back within a certain time frame.
Right.
And he was just sending out a message, So I'm sure the next text message you look for back
They were
would
sitting waiting on their phone.
It's interesting to look at it like that, like even at club level, the managers are always like, right, get back in the WhatsApp straight away, and if players aren't, that probably does send a message of
100%.
Yeah, your head's not clued in.
Yeah, absolutely.
We were talking about Brian Dowling, well obviously just mentioned there, but we were talking to him last week, obviously stepping down as the Kilkenny Camogie manager, and he mentioned about you, I don't know if you saw it, he just said that when you're on the pitch and say he came on and he was marking you or playing against you, you would be like, don't talk to me now, I'll talk to you after the game. And that's the type of player you were. I mean, Shane, we're just having that discussion now. What was he like? He says he's a talker. I'm like, if someone comes on and tries to talk to me, like that's my worst nightmare.
You two are similar then.
Which you don't want to be, because I suppose your head, someone starts talking to you, like, how do you with the ball's about to come in, like, how, when do you stop talking? Because that's probably, I didn't see you playing football now, Ashton, yet, but I'm sure it's part of your game too. But like, the most important part of hurling is the 4 or 5 seconds before the ball comes down. And if you're chatting away to Dowell in the corner, it was probably a psychology part from him. He talk away to you, but he was probably looking at the ball now in front, because he had a great career as well. Like, I was best friends with Brian through school. Like, he's from all Auckland's, and we're both Arsenal supporters as well for our sins, and we grew up during Dean Wright, George Graham era, Toddy Adams, Ray Parler, and so we met each other in Kieran's, and that time, and that was the beauty of Kieran's. You see the All-Ireland victories and the Leinster victories of the college, and you think it comes from just the say outside in the clubs and that, but every break and lunchtime we were out either playing wall ball for an hour or playing matches. And we transferred. It was Brian and used to play with Conor O'Grady, and there was a couple down in Fennessy's Field, and we were all playing wall ball, and Cha Fitzpatrick was the wizard at when we were in 3rd or 4th year. Cha came in and no one could beat him. He was just
what are the rules? How did you win at wall ball?
So wall ball, basically, it can be played between two. You need 2 players, or you can play up to as many players as the size of the wall ball alley, I suppose. So the ball comes down. The game we played was majorly 3 hops, 3 bounces. So you got 3 hops on your boss, and then 3 bounces on the ground, and you hit it back. Now, if you could do it in 1 or 2, all the better. But the faster or lower you could hit it off the wall, or hit at the angles, depending on the alley, you're brilliant at. And that's why Cha was so good. He had a brilliant head, and he was a brilliant competitor. So probably the ultimate wall ball player.
It's basically handball alley.
Oh, it's handball alley. Absolutely.
So if it bounces 4 times, you're
bounce 4 times, or if you have 4 times on the hurl, you're gone. Or if it rolls.
Right.
So if you get the angle on it on the wall and it rolled across, so you're beating Docket then straight away.
It's all about angles. You're basically using Pythagoras' theorem there to play.
Yeah.
Like, you're trying to hit it as low on the wall as possible for it to bounce back.
Absolutely. But if your man is up near the wall, you're trying to hit it higher.
Yeah.
So and you have to judge, because you have big alleys and small, because there was 3 walls on some of them. If you're lucky enough, then down the Clash you had maybe 4 walls, or we didn't play over in the butts or anything like that, but often played in there, but not with the school, obviously, but and then Brian and Conor O'Grady and a few of them lads, they transferred it in. We went playing matches, so that was 9 points in or whatever, and so it was just you're playing training sessions every day, and
good for fitness as well, and just even match hand-eye coordination.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Brian, so you would have hated the likes of that, a good mate of yours like Brian coming over and chatting about the night out you were going to have later on, and that sort of thing. Like, you're just thinking, just go away from about me, just concentrate
I'll
on the
talk
match.
to you after.
But if I was Brian obviously knew you very well. If I was someone that knew you very well and I was going over to mark you, that's exactly what I'd do. You'd want to talk to you then, because you'd know that you hated it.
Yeah, well, listen to it, but you cut it off straight away, so there's no hating it.
You can't stop a man from talking. You can tell him to shut up.
I could stop listening.
Yeah. Well,
did that ever really happen at county level?
County level,
maybe it's more like Shane said, like a psychology thing where they're trying to get in the head.
Yeah, well, one time it happened to me recently enough. We were playing the Village, James Stevens again, and my godson plays for them,
right?
Shane O'Donoghue, and he's fiery, and he's a good hurler. And
relation to yours would be fiery.
I'll say my grandfather, you would have heard a lot listening to your podcast on Paddy Grace the other day. So Paddy's my grandfather, you mean Mammy's daddy, and Shane O'Donoghue's mother, Sandra. So we're first cousins.
Yeah.
So Paddy Grace would be Shane O'Donoghue's great grandfather.
Right.
But Sandra would have been the oldest of our cousins, right? Only the family tree. So she became my godmother.
Okay.
So then when Sandra had Shane, I was the godfather, you know.
Yeah.
But Shane is, I don't know what age Shane is now, probably mid-20s.
Yes.
And so I was going to play again, so I was full forward to come to the end. And I said, hey, listen, I'll talk to you after. I didn't know, did he understand the way? So I said, listen, I'll talk to you after the game. You know, he looked at me like this, like he's going to kill me. He was not there for talking either.
Right.
So that was two lads just knew each other. But
it's in the blood. So you didn't even have to say anything to him?
I didn't have to say it. I said, even after I said, I shouldn't have said that.
He was ready to kill you.
Oh, he was ready, and he was giving me no orders.
Oh, that is brilliant. We should get into the match, I guess, tomorrow or on Sunday. So, like, even from chatting to people in Kilkenny the last day or two, there's an air of confidence, but maybe a level above the confidence of last year's final. I feel like maybe it's because Limerick have been shown to maybe not be the Limerick team that they were. I think before the semi-final they hadn't won a game by more than 2 points. You know, they even lost to Clare earlier in the year as well. So they're not infallible, this Limerick team, and maybe that leads to the confidence.
Yeah, well, they'll have to go very well, you know. They'll have to go really, like, it's, I don't know what the odds in the bookies are at, but I think I heard Joe talking about the other day, it's probably not good. And the big danger, I suppose, for Kilkenny is that Limerick they're probably over their bad patch. In Munster they were stumbling along, but after 25 minutes against Galway they worked it out and they were just incredible. The biggest thing with that Limerick team is they've so many stars, just really top class 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 stars. You hold down one of them, like, you know, Seamus Flanagan was quite enough the last day. Galan is kind of the man at the moment. You hold down Galan, suddenly Flanagan is incredible. Like Gerard Hegarty's, you know, exploits in All-Ireland finals is off the charts. You know, like the last 3 or 4 All-Ireland finals he's been just unbelievable after quiet semi-finals. And the worry then is, like, he's after being quiet enough, you know, this year so far. Is he going to just go explode in the final? Cian Lynch is after coming back, you know, he was on and off the team, injuries, suddenly he was captain the last day, back to his best. So for Kilkenny to go well, like if you cast back to the league final, we thought we had a great chance that day as well, and they absolutely hammered us like really in the league final. So things will have to go well, but I think the first port of call will be they'll have to push up on puck outs and push up and go 15 on 15, and that's not the traditional 15 on 15. If Limerick go back with 8 or 10 in defence, I think we have to go up with them. We have to learn from Clare down below in the Gaelic grounds. Thought they were brilliant with their tactics, and they won that day, albeit be only a point or 2 in the end, but I think they showed the way to beat Limerick, and I think if they'll have to do that to get a chance.
One of the areas that everybody's talking about at the minute is obviously Declan Hannon. He didn't play in the semi-final. We saw Will O'Donoghue push to midfield that day. How big of a loss would Declan be if he doesn't play?
Yeah, well, it's like anything. Like when you have a great team, it's the loss isn't as major as it would be on a team with maybe, you know, only a couple of superstars. Like I remember when JJ Delaney got injured a week or 2 before 2006 All-Ireland final, it was like the end of the world, like, you know, and because JJ was, you know, absolutely our best defender ever, and up there with Henry, you know, and say TJ and DJ even, you know, for being the best players probably ever played for Kilkenny. And that Cork team was unbelievable, you know. 2004 or 5 they were going for the 3 in a row, and they were the hottest of favourites, and we couldn't live with them in 0-4. We didn't even get to the final in 0-5, and now we're missing our, you know, 1 or 2 best players. And Brian Cody came in, and it was just, listen, man, you know, he had huge respect for JJ, but like, man in, another lad comes back out, and I think that Limerick team were the very same. We seen it with Sean Finn is gone, Mike Casey comes in. We seen it last year with Cian Lynch, you know. So they're able to,
it's next man up, and that's the mentality that they have.
It's unbelievable, isn't it, the Limerick psyche, even the way they've adopted players like that. Even chatting to like Eamonn Cregan yesterday, and he was talking about Declan Hannon even back in the day. I hadn't realised this, playing in, you know, Fitzgibbon finals and popping balls over the bar. I think he scored 110 or something in a final. Like, he's one of these players that just is adaptable to different positions, which is a big loss for a team like Limerick. And it's not just that, it's the leadership qualities he has.
Yeah, and he's able to the lads are able to attack. Diarmaid Burns, even though he just goes up as far as maybe midfield, but he's shooting. And over on the other side you have Kyle Hayes. He's really up and down, so he can kind of do it, giving a free rein on that wing when they're playing down to the Davin. It's along the Cusack stand, you'll see him up and down. He could be anywhere, and Hannon, you see, gives them the ability to do that because he sits in the middle, the old school centre back. And you don't need huge amount of pace. You just need to be able to read the game, and he's there for everybody. And a few of the great defenders that we played with used to always say, you never defend on your own, you defend together. And Hannon is kind of that link man. Like, I think it was Peter Barry said it there years ago, that, and he was a centre back as well, and just going around, hovering around, tracking back, and that's what Hannon does as well. So albeit you'll see him going up and scoring, you'll see him distributing the ball, but he's a huge outlet for the other defenders, that they can attack, they can take the risk of going for a ball for the fear that if those go behind, Hannon is round covering. So he'll be a huge loss in that way. But they're probably, it's probably player for player as in regards Will O'Donoghue would be similar enough. He doesn't attack a whole lot. He's mostly going around defending and helping out with other players. So, he's, I suppose, a good replacement.
You need sort of your best players firing on the biggest day. If you look at Aaron Gillane and what form he's been in, it's unbelievable. It's probably Hugh Lawler going to pick him up.
Yeah, you'd imagine Hugh Lawler, and then it depends on the whole match. You have Peter Casey, you have Shamie Flanagan, and you have Gillane. So last year they put,
it's not bad, is it?
No, it's all good.
Where do you bring them all back and market trade? But I suppose last year, they put, I'd say, young Tommy over on Flanagan. Mikey Butler went out because Peter Casey tends to travel around a bit, like Tony Kelly will say. So it seems that Mikey Butler picks up him. So if to go by last year, I'd say Hugh Lawler pick up Gillane. Hugh Lawler has the pace and he has the power in the air. What does Gillane, where does he get most of his scores? Tipping out to either corner, and usually out to the right hand corner, where number 13 is usually back over the left shoulder, on his left hand side over the bar. Well, Hugh Lawler has the pace to get out there, so you'd be hoping that he'd be able to track them runs. The other one which we've seen, that magical catch in the semi-final, like Daithí Burke, has anyone ever caught a ball hashing over Daithí Burke before? And he just came in like his unbelievable strength, but with his speed of thought and speed of feet, he was able to get in behind him at the last second. Like, no fullback ever really gets caught in front of his man, and especially Daithí Burke, but he was making so many runs that it's just what happened on the day. But I think Hugh Lawler will be able for the high ball. He's so tall as well, and he is brilliant in the air, and as you said, big players step up in big days. Like, how many All-Ireland finals have been decided in the past? Like, you go back to 95, Eamon Taff came on, scored a goal and went back off again. Like, they were about to take him off, I think, by all counts in 95. Next minute he scores the goal, and Clare win the All-Ireland. Like, Taggy in 06, Shamie Callanan for Tipperary in 16. Like, the All-Ireland final performances are huge. If one player can step up and just put in a magical performance. Even Joe Canning wasn't an All-Ireland final, was an All-Ireland semi-final. We're looking at it last night, and some of his best moments, that pint he scored, like
against Tip,
to win it underneath the Cusack. Like, not many players can score that. It takes players, and they won the All-Ireland final. Was that one of the reasons? Of course it was. And you'd be hoping maybe go back to 2018 when Limerick won, Nicky Quaid's little dive and flick on Harnedy. And we're kind of hoping that maybe Old Murphy's, they're saying it's one of the saves of the century.
Or Conor Fogarty's block in the first half.
Conor Fogarty's. Could that be? Could we look back maybe after victory on Sunday and say, this is where we won it?
The referee is going to be massively important, you'd imagine, in terms of letting the game flow. Fan Larkin name checked John Keenan yesterday. I think it's John's first time refereeing an Ireland hurling final, but by all accounts he is definitely a referee that lets the game flow. Shifty Lad, one of our regular commenters, has said this morning, lads, John Keenan is refereeing the hurling final on Sunday. He has to retire as he's in his 50s. Why? He's a very fit guy, always was, and a tough fella back in the day. Doesn't make any sense. Good Ochra man. As a county we're all proud of it too, seeing it's not a traditional hurling county. He wasn't a bad player himself, enjoy it, but that's going to be crucial, isn't it? The likes of Keenan is a referee who does let the game flow, so I'd expect a pretty good match for that reason as well.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point, that he was a pretty good player himself. And I often find that, like, with the referees, if they play the game themselves, they can understand some of the tackles and some of the moves, that it doesn't look as bad as it has done on television. And Keenan definitely referees that, because if you have to go for the ball like a slight little sidestep one way or the other, you're in bother. And that makes perfect sense if he was a good player, because he understands from the other side of the fence. These are guys, like, you have to understand, these are guys in All-Ireland final that have done everything their whole lives to play in this game. This is their dream. It's the dream of their brothers, their sisters, their families. He's proud as a Wicklow man, Knockerman of John Keenan. The players, clubs are so proud of him. If that's their man, it's usually that's our lad. That's what the way they would talk about him on match day. And so I think the great referees understand a player can make a mistake. To understand the difference in a player making a mistake and intentionally going out to do something is huge. And I find the great referees are able to make that decision on the day. And John Keenan is definitely one of them. And I was a little bit worried that when he got the final, that because he refereed such a great Munster final last year and didn't get a game after that, would he be worried the same thing would happen again? But I didn't realise this is his last game, so he can go off and he might get the whistle and throw it out.
True.
Which, by the way, is a ridiculous, if anyone from the G has any sense, like the fact that he has to retire at 50 because he's 50. Like, these referees should be based on the fitness test alone.
Absolutely.
Like, you could be the fittest 60-year-old. Compared to a lad in his 40s who can't run. You know, so I think it's farcical that John Keenan has to hang up the whistle. I'd love to hear his thoughts on it after the match even. But I know a couple of referees have a bone of contention with that. You mentioned like how important it is to the club this week, Tommy. Even I was down at St Patrick's in Limerick City yesterday, Gerard Hegarty's club, just up the road from where Ger still lives, and like there's Gerard Hegarty flags everywhere, and it's so specific to each player. But how does that feel when you're in All Ireland final week and you see your name on posters around Tullaroan or whatever it is, and you know that all the focus is on the game? I guess you're trying to distract yourself the whole week and think of anything but the match. Like usually my All Ireland final preparation would be, if the game comes into your head, you might think about it for maybe a couple of minutes early in the week, a Monday or Tuesday, maybe who you're going to be marking on the day and what way he kind of plays, and you'd measure it up for because I always found it went on instinct anyway. What you were doing for the last year in training is what you usually did a match day, even if you came up with a new plan on the day. But you'd watch a player and see, but that would be early in the week. And after that, the way I used to just do it is once, because as you said, it's grand keeping it out of your head, but then you see a flag or see your name somewhere. So what I used to let it do was just I wouldn't be afraid of it, as in say, oh damn, I need to stop looking at this. I let it in and out. That's the way I looked at it. I used to come in this way and out that way. It doesn't make any sense, but it worked for me. And it just stopped you getting nervous. You got that little flutter for the 30 seconds, 10 seconds, 5 seconds, but that allowed you to just get on with it. But it's just like if you watch Spider-Man or Batman, these guys with the these senses that just slow down everything. Well, All Ireland finals were like that. Like, you didn't need to pump yourself up for an All Ireland final, any final really, even if it was a blitz or a cup final at home in training or anything. If it was the name before it was final, you just became razor sharp. Your mind just suddenly you just became alive. And that's what I used to love about the finals, was that you prepared all year, and this was it then. But because you prepared for an All Ireland final, and like say you looked at Welsh Cup final, this is the be all and end all. You were prepared, and come final week then it just went in the space of a second, like, and I always felt that an All Ireland final itself, like, while it was a 70-minute game, maybe 75-minute game, I always looked at it as about 15 minutes aside, because that's what I felt like. It just goes so fast.
You were kept busy as well with your book and your tickets and all the
parade
that used to go on with it. You used to tell me that.
Yeah, I had a diary and work, and Sunday, whatever it was usually the first Sunday in September. So if you asked me, Aisling or Shane asked me for a ticket, you went down in the book, and I didn't have to think about it after that. So you got in so many tickets then when they couldn't give out the tickets, and over to Mammy then, and she looked after the rest of it. So she was brilliant, took all the heat off of me, and getting the tickets wasn't really the hardest part. It was good tickets. So, like, you tell a lad I have
30 in the Hogan stand.
That's why every month.
They don't take what they're given.
It's all final. Just take whatever tickets
you'd have to send them a warrant. But if you didn't send them the warrant and say, listen, and get your ticket, but I can't. If I could get you, tickets in the middle of the Hogan, I'll get them for you. But I can't decide that. And like, you tell a lad, here you are in the Upper Davin. Oh, the Upper Davin.
You're in Croke Park.
So disappointed, and I can understand it. I'm the same myself, and I was asking a cousin of mine played soccer there, and you'd be asking for tickets. Make sure it's a good ticket now. You tell them. So
yeah.
You're that person.
I was that person, like, and I know it was brilliant.
Do you miss it all, Tommy?
Well, sure. Edwina, my cousin Edwina works for KCLR, and another granddaughter of Hattie Grace, but great at her job, and we were at the opening of a house in Tullerone there for people, and a few weeks ago, and she was just asking me that, did I miss it? And it's just, I didn't play in 10 years.
Yeah,
that's actually mad.
It's a long time, Yeah, 2013 was that, sub in 14 and 2013, so 10 years. So though I miss it, listen, I know I can't play really, so I don't miss. I'd love to be able to still play, but
So I've heard you're still decent enough at club level. I've heard from, so that's the word in the grapevine anyway down there. Finally, predictions, Tommy. How do you see the game going?
Well, I said it last night, so I'm not sure if anyone was listening last night, but we went for the double last year. We won the football, we met New York in the final, and we got beaten in the hurling. So this year, unfortunately, Christy Welch and his troops, they did great again. They got to the final, but they were pipped by New York this year. So hopefully we'll win the hurling this year. So I'm going to go with the Cats.
By a couple of points.
Yeah.
Tight game. Tommy, listen, enjoy the match. Best of luck.
Thanks, Tommy.
Great stuff as always from Tommy Walsh there on OTB AM, the Sports Breakfast showing off the ball. 8:59 approaching on this Friday morning show. We're turning our attention back to matters football. We're delighted to have Aislinn Meaney, the Galway United and ex-Irish international, on the line. Morning, Aislinn. How are things?
All good. How are you?
Keeping well. Thanks a million for popping on with us. We have you on because there's a big game taking place this Sunday, another one aside from the hurling final, 23rd of July, 3 p.m. in the showgrounds in Sligo Town, the Avenir Sports All-Ireland Cup final. So your own Galway United playing Cliftonville. Galway drawn as the away team in this game, so Cliftonville in their red home kit, yourselves in the green away kit. I know you are sending, as a club, supporters buses and all up to this game. A really, really unbelievable occasion to look forward to.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting one. It's the girls have been putting in so much work all year round, so I think it's somewhere where we definitely deserve to be. So it'll be a great day out, and another opportunity to show what we have and what we're able to do. So I'm very excited for it. I think we can go all the way. The girls they've been brilliant, and they've just been so brave with everything so far. So I really think it'll be a great day, and I think we can go all the way with it.
Yeah, Aislinn, it's great to have this competition as well. You don't often get to play some of the Nordy teams as well, but it's great that they're all getting to play against each other, and you're getting to see their level as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's a brand new competition this year. It's something we haven't done before, so it's just something else that's exciting. It's nice that we can mix those teams as well, just to see a bit more the quality that's up north as well. So it's been very good so far. I know it's the first year. I'm not sure if it's happening again next year, but it's been an exciting cup so far. So I'm just delighted that it's us in the final.
You would have had time across in the US as well, Aislinn, with Akron. What was that experience like? Because I'm sure it was an unbelievable life experience, even aside from the footballing side of things.
Yeah, it was brilliant. I really enjoyed my time. When I first went out there, I didn't think that I'd be staying for the 4 years. I said I'd give it first year and see how it goes, but decided to stay. It's a brilliant opportunity to be able to combine the education and soccer as well. So I had a great experience out there. It's different, the college life over there is different to anything I've experienced in Ireland. So it's something completely different. So I'm just glad that I had that opportunity.
And you're talking very, very hot summers. That's in the Midwest of America. So that must have taken some getting used to, because even playing football in that would be unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean at the start, I wasn't really used to those hot temperatures. Our pre-seasons were August time, so I spent the month in pre-season, and it was upwards of 32 degrees. So that was something to get used to at the start. But you acclimatise, you get used to it over time. And then being in Akron, Ohio, we have the hot summers, but then come the springtime, it was snow. So then that was the next thing to get used to, really cold temperatures. So, but again, the facilities and things over there were amazing. So we were fortunate enough to have indoor fields. So at least we could use that when it was extremely cold outside.
Where do you think at the minute, Aislinn, the League of Ireland is as a whole? Do you feel like there's maybe a better buzz about teams this year, maybe more coverage? I definitely felt it, any of the games that I got out to anyway.
Oh yeah, completely. I mean, just over the years, when I was coming back between America and Ireland, I could see the improvements that were being made in the league. It's brilliant to see. It's where it should be headed. And the coverage is definitely picking up. I think it's what we need. It does create a buzz, and it just makes it more exciting. Even like coming back into the Galway United setup, it's just a lot more professional. Even having like the likes of the social media team on board, just pushing for like this, the All Ireland Cup, the final. It's been brilliant. So I just hope it keeps heading in that direction.
And you were with Treaty United before, so that I'm sure there's a nice healthy rivalry between Treaty and Galway, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I mean, of course, yeah, we're fairly close geographically, so it is. I think it's nice and healthy. It's good to have it. It's just another, something that's exciting to look forward to. Those little rivalries. So yeah, I mean, it's just another thing to add to the game that makes it a bit more exciting.
You've got the Irish caps under your belt as well. Like, I'm sure you'd love to add to that. What was that like when you're first getting the call up to the Irish team? I think it was under Colin Bell you got your first cap. So that experience and that phone call or text must be a life-changing moment. Yeah, absolutely. It's I haven't played with the underage teams. It's I think it was a different setup completely, going from the under 19s up to the seniors. A completely different setup. It's a lot more professional. It was amazing just to have those opportunities and experiences under my belt. I think has been really good for my personal career. So yeah, just being able to travel all over Europe and to play with the likes of the girls who are in the World Cup right now, it was amazing. You would have won even when you entered the league first. So was it 2017? So you began with the Lifford Ladies. You joined Galway in 2017, and you have the League Player of the Month award. I think in May 2018, you're on the League Team of the Year. So, like, to coin the Michael Richards phrase, you burst onto the scene in many ways. Yeah, I think so. I think just stepping up into the League of Ireland, coming from my local team Lifford and Ennis, it was again, you're on a bigger stage, and I was just buzzing. I was so excited. So I just wanted to kind of show everything I had. You have a lot more exposure at that level. So, games where you have like Irish scouts coming to games, it was just something that it was an opportunity that I needed to just grab, and just loads of excitement playing with a team like that. So it was. I had a good start at it, so I was happy with that. And have you had much conversations with Vera Pauw, or has that ever been a thing? I'm sure you'd obviously love to get back there. Yeah, no, not much. I mean, last year during the summer months, I was involved a little bit with the home-based training, so haven't had a lot of contact or communication in that regard. But yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm finishing out my masters at the moment. I'm back home, so it's something I definitely would be interested. I would love to be involved in that setup again. It's the biggest honour you can have in football, representing your country. So that's where I'm putting my focus towards that, and just keep working head down, doing the right things each and every day. So it definitely would be such an honour again if I had that opportunity. Oh, absolutely. And what is it like at the minute to watch the girls in a World Cup? It's brilliant. I'm so proud of them. It's just being on the world stage, it's unbelievable, and I think they're doing their country so proud. Like, even the game yesterday, I think they've so many things to be proud of. I think it was a positive experience for them. Lots of positives to take from it. I know it was probably a little disappointing we didn't get at least a point out of the game, but they showed how they can fight and they can put up a battle, and I think it's a performance they should be proud of. Even when you see the young, like we were talking about Abby Larkin earlier, at 18 years of age, to be lining out at a World Cup, such an experience for someone of that age, isn't it, Aisling? Yeah, I know, and I think she handled it really well. It's an immense amount of pressure at that age, stepping up onto the world stage, but I think she did brilliantly, and she really took the opportunity with both hands, and she had some really positive moments throughout the game, so I think she should definitely be proud of herself for that. And it's a team of leaders as well, like Katie McCabe, Denise O'Sullivan, these players with such experience. We almost forget that they're not going to be overawed by an occasion. Of course, it's the first time they've ever played at the World Cup, but it's still so much experience, even the likes of Katie playing in Champions League games, big ones as well at that. So probably no wonder that they weren't overawed by the occasion.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when you look at the likes of Katie McCabe and many other players on the team, they're playing with Arsenal and the likes of that. They're big pressurized games and playing alongside other European and world players. It's top class stuff. So I think they handle it really well. I don't think they let the pressure get to them. I know it can be a very pressurized situation with the huge crowds. It's loud, and I think they did a great job of just blocking out the noise, focusing on the task at hand, and getting through it. We
were talking Rashida Adelecki on the show. Obviously, basically every week we talk about Rashida Adelecki on the show because she does something amazing. But she would have had decisions to make as a kid. Even basketball was on the table for her, and obviously has to ultimately choose the athletics. For you, was it a decision in school to focus on the soccer? I know you would have played county level Gaelic football, for example, underage with Clare.
Yeah, it was kind of, I was always playing soccer and Gaelic football for many years. They were kind of my two main sports. And then towards the end of secondary school, it was kind of a decision that I had to personally make heading into college. I knew taking on college as well was going to be another task. So for me, I chose to go with soccer. I knew that I could possibly one day take that overseas, and I had the opportunity to go to America and finish out my college over there. So it was something I had to decide at that stage, like if I'm going to commit, I'm going to commit fully. So I'm going to have to put all my time and focus into the one area. So I was about 17, I think, when I made that decision to go all in with soccer. And that's when I stepped up into the League of Ireland, and then with college and the Irish team, it all kind of kicked off then.
Well, you're keeping Clare on the map, you're keeping Ennis on the map. I know you've probably been following Anya Donegan's exploits as well. The amateur golfer, amazing, to see a Clare woman do what she's doing, an Ennis woman as well.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's unreal what she's doing. I know she's over with LSU, an amazing college over in America, and what she's been doing as an amateur is unbelievable. And I wish her the best of luck. I really hope her career flourishes because she's been doing so well so far. So it's been brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. She's flying it. Well,
yeah, incredible.
Unbelievable. Aisling, so that's the Avenir Sports All-Ireland Cup final this Sunday at the Showground in Sligo Town if anyone wants to head along. 3 p.m. kick-off. Your own Galway United playing Cliftonville. So Aisling, brilliant stuff. Thanks for hopping on, and best of luck in that game on Sunday.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant stuff. Aislinn Meaney there of Galway United, and of course there's a couple of Irish international caps as well at 9:09 a.m. on this Friday morning's OTB AM, the Sports Breakfast Show on Off the Ball. Time to turn our attention to John Duggan. John, good morning.
Shane and Aisling, how are we doing?
Flying it, and the Open is well underway in the swing of things. From an Irish perspective, do we have anything to get excited about just yet?
No,
yeah. Is Rory gonna, so probably disappointed with his opening round? Is it fair to say?
Well, he was trying to accentuate the positives on Sky, folks, but I would think he'd have to be a little bit disappointed that he didn't shoot under par. 30 players were under par yesterday at Hoylake at Liverpool, and he's 5 shots off the lead. 3 birdies, 3 bogeys. I felt his body language wasn't great. He didn't have that pep in the step that Rory has, that he had at the Scottish Open last week at certain times, and he just looked frustrated out there. Didn't think the short game was as sharp as it could be. Some of the putting didn't get going until the back 9. So he's even par, as is Seamus Power. Alex Maguire, the amateur, at a late 10 Bettystown, 1 over par. Really good from him. Shane Lowry 1 over. That'll be disappointing, especially because he made a 6 on one of the easiest holes, the par 5 15th. Darren Clark 2 over. Padraig Harrington 3 over par. It's cold, it's windy there this morning at Royal Liverpool, and for example Emiliano Grillo from Argentina, who is tied for the lead with Tommy Fleetwood and the amateur player.
So Lamprecht,
yes. Grillo's just made a double bogey on the second, so he's got back to 3 under par. When I was looking at the contenders that are playing well, like Fleetwood is a very, this to me is a bit, I felt it was quite a tricky course yesterday. There are 6 out of band holes with the driver that out of the 14, which can cause danger. So for example, Phil Mickelson took an 8 on the last, Justin Thomas took a 9 on the last. Now he got into trouble in bunkers. The bunkers are almost like water hazards. They're very treacherous. You saw Rory McIlroy trying to extricate himself from a bunker there on 18 yesterday, and he looked like he was doing Twister. So the bunkers are penal. There's going to be some horror stories, I think, over the next few days, and this was a course that yielded an 18 under par winning total for Tiger Woods in 2006 and a 17 under par total for Rory McIlroy in 2014. They've taken one shot off the par up to 71. I think it's a trickier course. They've created a new hole completely on the 17th, a par 3 that has once again a very difficult bunker to the right of it. And I think that it could be a test of patience. Most of the golfers I saw up there yesterday, the leaderboard, were tidy strategy based players like Brian Harman, a tidy player, Max Homa, a tidy, Stuart Sinkapass, winner of it, Wyndham Clark, the US Open champion, 3 under par, Jordan Spieth, if you're looking for the bigger names, is 2 under. That was a good start from him. Then on 1 under we had the likes of Brooks Koepka, Patrick Cantlay, Scotty Scheffler, the world number 1, Xander Schauffele, all on 1 under par. There was a stat on the BBC that said only 2 players since 1970 have won the Open from over 5 shots back after round 1. So that would not bode well for the performances of Cameron Smith, Colin Morikawa, John Rahm, for example. Rahm 3 over par. So it's wide open, but Tommy Fleetwood has got 6 top 5s in majors. He's from the area, from Liverpool. He's the Beatle of the area. Second at Portrush behind Shane Lowry in 2019, and has played well in the last couple of months in the top 5 of the US Open, in the top 10 at the Scottish Open last week. And he is a very accurate player. I think Tommy Fleetwood at the moment, you'd have to think, is a favourite.
Yeah.
It'll be hard for Rory to do back-to-back victories, obviously, after that impressive win in the Scottish Open.
Yes, and the issue is that he's going into a major. He hasn't won a major in 9 years, and this is the place he won the major. He would have been hoping for a 2 to 3 under par round. He has to now. He's well capable of getting that Pied Piper walk into his gate and making a few early birdies, and it's all about momentum with him. So I think he does. The problem is he's got to brave the elements. So he can't get into a position where he drops a couple of shots and the head goes down, and you can see it in his facial expressions. He can't hide what he feels. But if he gets a couple of birdies, maybe post 2 to 3 under today, that could look very good by the end of the day.
He tees off his second round. I think he's first to the Irish out 9:58 a.m.
That's right,
this morning. So if you're up early this morning, you can, or not even early, I suppose it's not early anymore. But yeah, at least you can watch him out on the course. Like that momentum you take from the first round into the second, John. The 18th for Rory yesterday, the par 5, finds the bunker beside the green, needs 2 shots to escape the sand, and then he holds his nerve from 10 feet to save par. But it's funny, something like that, as little as that, could have been a disaster for him, and yet he saves it with a 10-foot putt. So that could be the impetus that he needs for the second round.
Well, it's such a mental game that anybody's going to talk themselves up in their own head. Oh, well, that was a great save that I made, and that means I'm going to feel good about that. And people are trying to get the negative stuff out of their mind. It's all about the mental side, because a lot of it, they're so good, these guys, it's on autopilot for them. But this is a major championship. Thoughts can swirl around, and you don't want the thoughts to become oppressive in your mind, and then you start making mistakes. Like, how will Emiliano Grillo now respond to what he's just done on the second hole? And there are big numbers out there, and that's what's going to make this a bit of a Hollywood drama Sunday afternoon, because it isn't quite intriguing. But you just can't get too far behind, and what all these things, the quality of the leaderboard is not that strong really at the top of the moment, but Tommy Fleetwood is interesting in that he missed the cut there in 2014 at Hurling, but is a much better player now, only in his early 30s. We remember the Mollywood, Francesco Molinari and Tommy Fleetwood at the Ryder Cup in Paris. He's such an accurate player and well liked on the tour, and has had really good performances in majors, and maybe this is his time after finishing second behind Shane a few years ago. But there's still 54 holes of golf to be played, a lot of golf to be played, a lot of twists and turns in the tail. But I would expect more from Shane Lowry yesterday, and just don't think it might be our week,
You mentioned Alex Maguire. Great Meath man. Amateur there, performing, doing really good things. It has to be said at the tournament. So booked his place after winning the St Andrews Links Trophy. He's only 22. He birdied the 15th and the 18th, both par 5s. A really good showing from him. You look at the leaderboard, like he's only a shot behind McIlroy in power.
Well, unfortunately, from the South African player's viewpoint, that Christoph Lamprecht just 5 under. So there's a silver medal for the leading amateur, which Rory McIlroy, I believe, won in 2007 when he was a young lad at Carnoustie. behind Padraig Harrington when he won the tournament. So what Alex Maguire will be looking to do is post a good number this week and obviously make the cut. He doesn't want an 80 today. Approach shots let him down yesterday in terms of the stats, but for 22 years of age, it's a marvellous experience for him, and he's playing golf that he's used to. I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? It's like for the Irish players, you'd expect them to do well because this is their bread and butter, whereas from an American point of view, some of them haven't a clue how to play it. Some of them embrace it, like Wyndham Clark has talked about how much he loves links golf and playing here in Ireland, but other players just can't get their heads around it at all. I was just going through the leaderboard on the other side of it. For example, when you go down right down the bottom, Jorge Campillo 11 over par. Justin Thomas has lost his form completely, 11 over. So just looking at Sahid Tagala, 8 over par, really talented player in America. Davis Roddy, 7 over. Chris Kirk, 7 over. Some of them sometimes just can't get to grips with the unique challenges of the patience required, because in the United States it's all target golf. It's all, this is exactly what you need to do. High balls onto the fairway, high approach shots and slick putting greens, where this is all about more the elements. And the defence of any links course is the wind and the rain and the cold weather. Pin positions are difficult. So I think you could have a bit of a gritty, tricky test this weekend for the golfers. It's great television. Sky have done an amazing job. Like 6:35 yesterday morning, and I was watching like at 9 o'clock last night, and it is just a fantastic coverage. I know sometimes people might crib that it's not on terrestrial, but when they do go onto the paid channels, these companies can really deliver quality coverage and quality commentators and great vistas.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that it's 9 years ago since, Rory McIlroy with the claret jug and all those pictures that went round and the unbelievable scenes. It doesn't feel like that.
Oh, it's insane.
No.
He brought the claret jug to Old Trafford and wore probably the ugliest suit I've ever seen. Maybe he's paying for wearing that suit. It was a Tarzan special. It was a horrific suit. Horrendous. So maybe the suit... gods, maybe he needs to wear a great suit after the next major to break the curse.
Yeah,
exactly. John, great stuff.
Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the hurling, Aisling.
Yes, cannot wait, John.
You going, John?
I am.
Brilliant
stuff.
Brilliant. Hopefully a good seat, as Tommy, we were talking about the importance of good seats in Croker there with Tommy Walsh. 9:18 a.m. on this Friday morning's OTB AM, the sports breakfast show from Off the Ball. Here are some highlights coming up on the OTB podcast network across today. We've got the brand new Koi Gig pod, looking back on the match yesterday. Player reaction as well with Lucy Quinn and Ciara Carusa. Keep an eye on the feed for more player reaction as well to come. And Ellen Keane, who announced that she will retire after the Paris Paralympics. After this short break, we'll chat through my trips to Limerick and Kilkenny and preview the hurling.
You're listening
to OTB AM. Off the Ball Daily. A home for your favourite podcasts from Off the Ball. The performance rankings, You Had to Be There, the crappy quiz, and a slight tangent.
You were in Manhattan. 1 week's not secondment.
Fair enough. It felt like it, man. We met you. You were in Manhattan. The Big Apple.
You said it there 5 times.
The Big Apple. The Big Apple.
Subscribe to the Off the Ball Daily podcast feed right now.
OTB AM.
The Sports Breakfast Show from Off the Ball.
Yep, 9:20 a.m. approaching on Friday morning's OTB and the Sports Breakfast Show and Off the Ball. I had an experience like you yesterday. I have so much respect for what you do in terms of reporting across the country, the driving, the miles,
the stress, the tiredness, the logistics of it all. Yeah.
Because you're trying to organise interviews in location A, then you have to get to location B by a certain time. You're trying to work out, I'd say you spend half your life in Google Maps.
Yeah, well, I don't always have to do that. I normally go to the game and I do my post-match interviews and all that, so it's a bit easier. What you were doing was a lot tougher. But you had a busy 2 days.
It was busy. Yeah, Jesus, I was in Kilkenny, so some people will have heard some of the Kilkenny content on yesterday morning's show, but like Eddie Kerr, I'd encourage anyone to watch that video with an absolute legend, but also Fran Larkin and Joe Hennessy that I was chatting to Tommy about. Like, two absolute characters, just old school
raw hurling men.
Proper raw hurling men. But yeah, you're right, I was in Limerick yesterday, and like it was such a treat. I sat down in the Castletroy Park Hotel with Eamonn Cregan, an absolute legend of the game. Used to do some unbelievable scoring for Limerick, so I made the drive through rural Kilkenny into Limerick yesterday. It was lovely actually. Out the Hurling to Johnstown Road from Kilkenny City over towards Murrow to Joe Quaid's house. But Eamonn Cregan, I met him, and like, he's just such a nice man. Such a nice man. Still playing golf. Like, he must be into his late 70s at least, Eamon, at this stage. But he was a Limerick legend, part of that 73 winning All-Ireland team as a player. But then in 94, he's managing Offaly in an All-Ireland Senior Hurling final against Limerick. which must have been the strangest experience ever, because he talked about coming out and the Limerick fans, to be fair, didn't boo him.
Yeah.
He's obviously a Limerick legend, but he's managing against his native county in an All-Ireland final. Like, this is 94, so it had been 21 years, so it was a famine at that point. The Limerick hadn't won in All-Ireland, and he is all of a sudden managing a team trying to stop them again.
Stop it, yeah.
So
that is tough.
It was. He said it was stressful, and then 5 minutes to play, his Offaly team were 5 points down. Limerick looked like they've broken the gap, and what happened in the last 5 minutes, Offaly just flicked a switch and just turned it on. But I asked, this first clip that we're going to play here from, and the full interviews are going to be on youtube.com/off the ball today, clips across our social media channels as well. But Eamonn Cregan talking about managing Offaly against his native Limerick. Have a look. At the full-time whistle of that one, how did you feel? Because I guess you're a Limerick man managing an Offaly team to beat Limerick in a final, which is such a bizarre situation to be in, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how I looked at it. First of all, when we walked onto the field, both Derry O'Donovan and myself walked onto the field, nobody booed us. Now, in a situation where a Limerick man is looking after another team and playing against Limerick, you can get a certain amount of the crowd having a go. Nobody had a go at us, and that stuck in my mind the whole time. And when it happened, you see, it was a number of consequences. Limerick made a very bad move in taking Gearóid Hegarty out of centre back, because not Gearóid, Ger Hegarty, Gearóid's father, out of centre back, because he dominated the three positions. He went behind, and when they went down the left wing, he went and covered back there, and he covered centre back, and he covered right half back, and we couldn't get the ball past him. There was a switch made then with one of the players, and Ger went to centre field, and then suddenly the half back line opened up, and we started playing. Offaly were a fine hurling side, you see, and but the feeling I had was it was a bit of a downer in one sense, that here I was hoping that Limerick would win in All-Ireland, and having won one in 73, and then we had the famine, which lasted 45 years. Now, I don't know how anybody could survive 45 years, but we did, and I'm there in charge of an Offaly team that beats Limerick in the final.
Yeah, it must have been a really strange experience for Eamonn Cregan. I mean, I can't imagine managing. I can barely watch Monaghan matches. You can imagine trying to manage against them. It'd be awful difficult. Joe Quaid was, by the way, the Limerick goalkeeper that day, and an unbelievable experience for him, I suppose. In 94, the disappointment, and he said that disappointment only left him in 2018, watching on from the stands in Croke Park in that last 8 minutes of injury time, which he said were the longest of his life. But this is Joe. I met Joe at his house in Murrow in Limerick yesterday morning, and he spoke about the impact of that 94 loss. That final, I guess, is a perfect example of, obviously, yourselves. It's probably tough to talk about when you're on the wrong side of it, but it's a perfect example of an All-Ireland final when you can't switch off. I remember hearing a story from you, it could have been in your Lake Brigade episode, where you talked about, you had someone behind your goals who was going to take the hurls away from it for you, later on if the game was over. But I think you were 5 points ahead with 5 minutes left, but you had a feeling maybe that Offaly weren't dead and buried just yet.
Yeah, there was just something that day. I remember he came over and he said, "I'll take your hurleys," and I just said to him, "This isn't over yet." I should have probably given them to him.
Manifested.
Yeah, but look, we were comfortable, we were cruising, and then what happened just happened so quickly. But I had a point with Gearóid Hegarty's father, George, there about 6 or 8 weeks ago, and we were laughing that I said, these days, I said, a quick puck out from McQuaid to Hegarty, and they're lauded as heroes. I said, we did it 30 odd years ago, I said, and we were two villains. I said, rather than being villains, George, I said, we can put ourselves down as market leaders. It just took 30 years to catch on.
That I remember being at that Limerick Cork semi-final in 18, when Nicky, your cousin, of course, makes that unbelievable save towards the end, and the final, of course, when what happened then. Did that moment at the full-time whistle in 2018 banish any of the pain or hurt that you had from 94 and 96? Obviously, you're not directly involved, but when your county does that, does it at least ease some of the bad memories?
Oh, it did, because for the simple reason that, I suppose, when Nicky brought that off, like if Robbie O'Flynn had put that ball over the bar, we were done. No, obviously if it's a goal, we were definitely done. But the other side of it, I suppose, was when the last 8 minutes of the final in 18, I will safely say, were the worst 8 minutes of my life. And you have to remember, I was there in the pitch for the last 5 minutes of 94. It was actually worse. I thought the whistle would never go. If that last ball that Joe Canning hit in went into the back of the net, I think we probably would have had to cancel Hurling and Limerick forever. Do you know, things were just that bad. But the very minute the final whistle went, the emotion that just poured out of everybody. And I think what banished to me, and it banished it, was Declan Hannon's speech when he said, I think the way he put it was, for all of the players and people that have gone before to get him to this point, this is for us. And I think that just absolutely banished all the bad memories. No, people like you still bring it up.
Sorry about that, Joe. Yeah,
but I suppose there's what did I say? There's nothing worse than being talked about than not being talked about. So
we're like Mrs. Doyle in the media. We love the misery. I think there's a bit of that, maybe, possibly. Yeah, we do love the misery a little bit.
He's a good character, Joe.
Oh, Joe's unbelievable.
I love hearing those stories. Like the old school stories are brilliant. Is he related to Nicky Wade?
Nicky's first cousin. So and both ended up as goalkeepers as well.
Yeah,
which is fascinating. Nicky's obviously unbelievable what he does. Joe was interesting yesterday, and you'll get the full interview, by the way, up on the YouTube shortly as well. But his opinion was that if you're a good hurler, every good hurler should try at least one season as a goalkeeper. Because he says it improves your touch, it improves your vision, even your distribution. And even I was chatting to Owen Larkin in Langton's the other day, and Owen did a year as a goalkeeper when he was under 14 maybe.
Yeah.
Jackie Tyrrell's father was the manager and threw him in as a goalkeeper, and he says one day he caught the ball and dropped into the goals, and he says that he went over to him, I'm never doing goals again. And he didn't. He wasn't guaranteed his position outfield, the manager was telling him, but he says, I'll fight for my place. I don't want to do that ever again. Because it's obviously a pressure position. But I have such respect for the likes of Joe Quaid and Nicky Quaid and these lads who watch me, the goalkeeper in an All-Ireland final like that. Because the Owen Murphy thing, those moments happen, and what a save by Owen Murphy. But if the ball trickles under your, which it could easily happen, the slither's tiny compared to a Gaelic football, so anything can happen on that pitch, and the goalkeeper is the most pressurised position in any sport. And
puckouts, how important they're literally probably the most vital cog in the whole thing. That if they go wrong, you're probably going to lose the game.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of get where Joe's coming from, that his advice to any young hurler is to try at least a season in goals.
Yeah.
See you get on it, not necessarily at senior level,
point,
but even under 12s or 14s, you'll have an appreciation for it. Because you have to be a bit insane.
Probably see the game differently.
Yes, yeah.
You're looking at a different view, especially if you're up the pitch. You're seeing the game at a total different view.
Completely differently. But Joe's a character, that vintage, that era. I think Joe said, even because they lost the All-Ireland final then 2 years later in 96, and he said that was more disappointing in some ways, but even though they had the game won in 94 before Offaly came back, 96 they had the experience of 2 years previous, so he said he looked with 10-15 minutes left at some of his Limerick teammates, and he said the heads had dropped, and he says he remembers running out the pitch screaming at them going, what are you doing?
Yeah,
we still have a chance here. So yeah, to go through those couple of All-Ireland final defeats must have been gut-wrenching for players like Joe. But yeah, characters, unbelievable. I'll tell you who else is a character. Hammy Dawson. Now, Hammy Dawson might not be a name familiar to some people yesterday, but he works up in a hotel or a hospital in Limerick, and he's the Limerick GA super fan. This guy he's been there for the good days and the bad days. But St Patrick's GA club, I met him near there on the same street Gerard Hegarty lives on. I met him there yesterday. There's a couple of nice flags and signs outside, and Hammy has a Gerard Hegarty flag in the back window of his car. He is nuts for Limerick Ireland. But I had a chat with him yesterday, and here's how some of that chat went. Try and enjoy the match. I know hopefully it's not as torturous as the last 8 minutes were in 2018, but enjoy it as best you can, Hammy.
Listen, Shane, I will, of course. And listen, thanks very much for coming down to speak to me today. I'm actually thrilled, to be honest. And up Limerick.
Up Limerick as well. And there's Garage.
There's the teddy bear. He comes as well.
You've got the teddy bear as well.
I've the teddy bear on the boat. He'll be in Dublin as well. So I just hope the stewards are not looking for a seat number for him.
He's there.
will I need a ticket in the Hogan stand for him?
Do surely.
Yeah.
Limerick
a bow. And look, I press the button and he sings Limerick You're a Lady on the teddy bear.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Great stuff, Hammy.
That is what it's all about, Shane.
Hammy Dawson.
Yeah.
He says he presses a button on the teddy bear and it sings Limerick You're a Lady. I just like he is everything. He came out of the car like a serious man. He was wearing that lovely Limerick maroon, I think it's their third choice kit at the moment. And I was like, this is a serious man. Walks around to the boot, puts on the hat, takes out the flag, and I just see the teddy bear in the back and the Grode Hegarty flag, and I'm like, this is what it's all about.
Yeah.
'Cause I'll tell you what, if Monaghan were in the All-Ireland final next week, I'd be stone mad.
Oh, I know.
Stone mad.
Yeah.
But like, I can imagine that, like, you as a kid watching Meath playing in
oh yeah, absolutely.
finals, you just lose the head of yourself.
Yeah. No, and that's great to see. That's what you want to see. You don't want to lose any of that.
Oh.
And you love having the flags in Croke Park. Like years ago,
Brilliant.
watching all the flags in Croke Park, you don't see it as much anymore.
Oh.
Obviously, it's tough to see as well, but like it's great to have that in. I think so. You don't want to lose people like Hammy there.
No,
Brilliant to see.
I was a Galway fan as well as a kid. Still am, of course, because of my dad. But like, used to bring Galway flags into Croker and watching all Ireland finals and Connacht finals. Used to love it.
Yeah.
Getting lads to sign your flag afterwards and all. It's amazing. But the only disappointing thing about the All Ireland this time around in both the football and the hurling is the build up is only 2 weeks. I love to have the 3 week build up where you can, people in the counties especially, can really enjoy it and soak it in.
True. Yeah.
So that
feels a little bit rushed.
It
maybe.
does. And even the fact that, it's not September where the schools used to bring the trophies into the schools and stuff.
I know.
They're off on their summer
had to
holidays.
be done for a reason. I do. You don't understand the reasoning. Yeah. And like the lads get to have a bit of time now. The girls as well. They'll have time and then back to their clubs. So they get the best of both. So you can get why they're doing it, but a little bit longer. You probably had that week to maybe do the 3 week build up.
It's true.
For sure.
It's true. If anyone wants to watch those Kilkenny chats back, it was Owen Larkin, Fan Larkin, Joe Hennessy, Eddie Kerr, Eamon Langton. Some great stuff from Kilkenny, and also from Limerick as well. You had Eamonn Cregan there. You had Joe Quaid, Hammy Dawson. You get the full chat with him, the Limerick superfan as well. All on the Off the Ball social channels, youtube.com/Off the Ball for all the videos, and the podcast network as well for all the podcasts. Should mention the Camogie fixtures as well this weekend. So the All Ireland Camogie senior semi-finals taking place tomorrow, Saturday. So double header at UPMC Nolan Park, 3:30 Waterford Tip, and 5:5 Galway versus Cork. So two crackers.
Yeah, really looking forward to this now. Tipperary, I think, are the team to watch this year. There's been a lot of strong work done there by Dennis Kelly, and you can really see that this could be their year. Like, they've been there time and time again in semi-finals. No more than Waterford. They were there last year as well, but I just feel there's a little bit of a rise at the minute with Tip. And then you look at Cork and Galway, two teams that know each other so well. It will be their fourth time playing each other this year, twice in the league. This is their second time now in the championship. It was Galway that got the better the last 3 times. So yeah, it'll definitely be a really good game. Obviously Cork overcoming Kilkenny in that quarter final by a point. So yeah, they'll take a lot from that. And maybe the two teams that had the bye to the semi-final, so Waterford and Galway, they're one less game they've played, and also the rest of the teams have played in Croke Park, so that will stand to them as well. But it'll be 2 cracking games, a double header in Nolan Park. So yeah, really looking forward to them.
The junior semi-finals as well, I should mention, is double header in Ashburn, Tip and Roscommon at 12 and Armagh Clare at 2. The intermediate semi-finals are both at FBD Sempa Stadium, 1 o'clock Derry Kilkenny and 3 o'clock Meath Westmeath.
I was like, you're not going to mention that, Shane?
Small rivalry there, Meath and Westmeath. Love to see it.
It'll be brilliant.
That'll be class.
Just to mention that the Tipperary are in the junior as well, so I think they just have maybe enough time if they want to leave Ashburn and get up to Kilkenny.
Yeah.
So it's a tough one. It's not a great situation now for the Camogie Association to have them on the same day with the two teams in it. Obviously there's a lot of supporters there would like to be at both games, but look, that's the way it is for some reason. So yeah, hopefully the Tipperary supporters can get up to the senior game and the junior game as well.
100%. Some really good games to look forward to this weekend. Can't wait for those. Aisling, great stuff as always.
Thanks, Shane.
Thanks a million.
Enjoyed that.
Enjoy the matches this weekend.
I will, yeah.
It's going to be class. And Monday's show, I should mention, Ger and I will have the performance rankings, the reaction to the All-Ireland Senior Hurling Final, and of course the Open in the golf. Plenty more besides as well. Right now though, my full chat with Eamonn Cregan, the one and only Limerick legend. You'll enjoy this. Have a formidable Friday, Huns, yeah? Okay, we're continuing the build-up to this Sunday's All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship Final. It is Limerick and it is Kilkenny, and I've been in Limerick yesterday, the last 24 hours or so, and we're continuing the build-up in Limerick, and it's delighted to be joined by a man who is no stranger to All-Ireland Finals or the big days, Eamonn Cregan. Eamonn, how are things?
They're not too bad. I have a frog in my throat at the moment, but that's not from excitement for the match next Sunday. But no, we're just, thanks be to God, we're living the life, and we're all above ground.
Exactly. I remember reading, there was a phrase from you in around, I think you were talking around 2016 when your Mary I team had a bit of success, and you had said that the gap between 73 and then was an absolute disgrace. Little did we know what was just around the corner in that there was a potential four in a row on the cards now. But did you ever think it would, even in 2016, that it would get to this point?
No. We always felt that we had plenty of good hurlers, and when the academy started in 2007, it blossomed, and then Joe McKenna with Jerry McManus got involved with Shane Fitzgibbon and his group, and we were hoping then that at some stage we might improve the standard of underage hurling, not so much as go out and win everything in front of us, but to be playing at a high level all the time. And this is where the Harty Cup system came into play, and then Fitzgibbon came into play, and a lot of the lads would have been through college and would have played in all of those things, but I never dreamed in my wildest dreams that we'd be here and we'd be in another final.
It's crazy, because I spoke to Joe Quaid earlier about I think they won an All-Ireland under-16 title in 2012 with a few of those lads.
Joe, it is a sore point with Joe. Joe would have automatically gone up to minor, but the under-16 was just Borden and Oak.
Yes.
And at that stage, the county board, under Joe McKenna, not under Joe McKenna, with Joe McKenna's advice, picked Brian Ryan as the manager of the minor team. I had been asked, but I didn't want to, because I didn't want any more responsibility. I preferred to be involved, but not a manager, because you have to go up and tell young fellas, I'm terribly sorry you didn't make the panel, and then bang, the feeling of, I won't say despair, but of anguish on their faces just I couldn't take it anymore.
There's so much that needs to be said about that, lifting the Treaty Academy, and was it 2011 you lads set that up around then?
The academy itself started in 2007. The new setup, which was involved the Borden and Og accepting recommendations from Shane Fitzgibbon that the whole setup needed to be changed, and inter-county players were brought into the fold, and a lot of it would have been Shane's idea. He thought about it, he spoke to a few of us, and then we came on board, and we went out then, and we had to canvass, because the feeling out in the county at the time was the idea was that we didn't go on trying to win under 12, under 13, under 14. The whole idea was to gradually improve and play to high standards. And that was accepted by the county board in Oak, and ourselves. Then we went forward from there, but we never thought it would happen. The way it's happening.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, the success, the level it's reached. Do you find it hard to believe? I was chatting to someone during the week. 1973, 50 years on, we have a Limerick Kilkenny final. I mean, what are your memories of that day? Because obviously people would have known you as a maybe a player that was further up the pitch, but you were moved to centre half back, I think, for that final to mark Pat Delaney, who was a danger man for Kilkenny.
Well, at the time we had Jim O'Donnell would have been centre back, and Delaney was playing centre forward, and I had been injured in the semi-final, and I didn't know what was wrong with me, and I had to go to doctors, and at the time a cartilage injury, nobody knew about it. They thought it was a bit of a thing moving around inside your leg, but in actual fact I didn't know it until after the All-Ireland final. So I was in treatment for 3.5 weeks, 4 weeks prior to the Munster final. Couldn't train, or prior to the All-Ireland final, and was with John St. George, a physiotherapist outside in the regional, and he never told me what was wrong. And he was always at my knee, and I was wondering what the hell. But I asked him one day. I said, will I be able to play? You will, he says, you will. So I went from there, and then the next night I went in training. I was approached by the two, Jackie Power and Dick Stokes, to know would I go to centre back, and my first thought, as I've said this often before, was for Jim O'Donnell, because Jim had been the one that had been playing there, and they said no, we'll talk to Jim and explain to him. So it wasn't a new move for me. I had played centre back with my club. Most of the time I played centre back until the legs began to go, and then they pushed me up into the forwards, and then they pushed me into 15. I think they were telling me something that the next step was over the end line, you know. But it was a surprise because it came out of the blue, and I accepted the role, and and then you see my emphasis at that stage was on my knee and whether I'd be available to play. And the match started, and I went for a ball. After 10 minutes I went for a ball, and next thing I heard a crack. I stumbled and I heard the crack, and I got up and I played on. And what he actually told me, John St. George actually told me, was the cartridge went in instead of coming out. It was out, and he hadn't been able to get it. I'm not sure whether he was unable to get it in or not, but it slipped in. And it was 5 years before I got it done, before I got my cartridge done then. It was 1978, it happened in a match. And, well, no, it didn't. It happened at home. I was chasing one of my sons around. He'd said something to me, and I ran after him. And next thing, bang, the leg went.
Jeez. So it was obviously a stressful build up to that final for you, because when you're thinking about an injury and how it's going to react, I guess that's stressful. But when the full-time whistle goes, and then the reaction of bringing Liam McCarthy back to Limerick, that must have been something special.
It was something special, because I always believed that we would win in All-Ireland. I had come from playing hurling I started playing club hurling at about 10, and my brother Michael was with me all the time. And we then progressed into Sexton Street, and we played Harty Cup, and we won the colleges, the Harty Cup colleges, in 63, 64, and we won the All-Ireland colleges that year. Now, we were beaten in the minor final the previous year, and I was captain, and I was useless, absolutely useless. And the fact that we were playing the following year in the colleges final, I had been there, and I had no problems with playing in Croke Park, and neither had the rest of the players. But that system was in place, and Limerick CBS went on to win 4 Harty Cups in succession, beaten in the final of the 5th. So a bulk of those players came on board, and then you had the likes of Richie Bennis and Frankie Nolan, who were in the technical school, and they had won in All-Ireland as well. So it was coming along nicely, and then suddenly they all came together, and we had a team that was capable of winning, because we went to five league finals in that time, and we played. I think we played 8 Munster finals on the trot, from 70 upwards. Not so much since I was 71 upwards, and we won 4 out of the 8, which wasn't bad. But it gave us the experience required when we went into play, because I was 28, I think, when we played in the final in 73. And Eamon Ray would have been 29, and the age gap was right. Experience was there, toughness was there, and the skills were there. And then we got in, Jackie Power and Dick Stokes became selectors, and they had won All-Ireland medals with Limerick in 1940. So we had somebody to look up to as well. And there was no politics as such. They saw it, they did what they had to do, and nothing mattered, only the Limerick team winning.
It's amazing, isn't it? 'Cause I'm trying to do the maths here. You would have been 28 in 73, so I'm thinking about random games. There's a game people still talk about, the 6th of the 6th, 66. You played a Munster quarter final. You must have been 21 then, if that was
21.
Right.
I was 21. Yeah.
People who weren't alive or don't remember, Munster quarter final against a very, very fancy Tipperary team. Yes, I think it has to be said, and you end up winning the game. The scoreline I have in front of me here: 4-12 to 2-9, and of that 4-12, you scored, if I've done this correctly, 3 goals and 5 points. I mean,
that's correct. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It sounds unbelievable. At the time, it didn't sound. We played a particular brand of hurling. Now, you've got to take into account that we're playing against a Tipperary team that had John Dial, Mick Maher and Kieran Carey in the full back line. And if you stood shoulder to shoulder with them, you hadn't a chance.
Yeah.
So our tactic under Brother Burke who was trained our Harty Cups team, was involved as a selector as well. And we adopted a kind of a Sexton Street style of hurling, which meant we kept the ball going fast, we moved it diagonally, and we ran onto the ball, so we kept them moving, and we tried to run the Tipperary backs, because if you didn't run the backs, you ran into stone walls, and you don't want that. And the balls came across beautifully from the wing, a diagonal ball coming across the wing, you run onto it and let fly, and fortunately they went in. But it was a great win for Limerick there, and then we adopted an attitude then that we were capable of beating Tipperary most times. It was a fantastic, winning that or beating them that day. You know, they beat us again. Had beaten us in '69 in by 2 points. But we were close. We were always close to Tip, and then it went about a 17-year spell when Tip. Anytime we met them in Munster Championship, we beat them. You know,
that rivalry lives on even today. Has to be said.
Certainly is.
It's one of those. I was chatting to Joe Quaid earlier, as I said, and we were talking about '94, and of course the All Ireland between Offaly and your own Limerick. Well, your own Offaly as well in a funny sense. And Joe was talking about that last 5 minutes where I think Limerick are 5 points ahead. Almost sewn up, but in hurling, I guess nothing is ever sewn up. Was that at the full time whistle of that one? How did you feel? Because I guess you're a Limerick man managing an Offaly team to beat Limerick in the final, which is such a bizarre situation to be in, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how I looked at it. First of all, when we walked onto the field, both Derry O'Donovan and myself walked onto the field, nobody booed us. Now, in a situation where a Limerick man is looking after another team and playing against Limerick, you can get a certain amount of the crowd having a go. Nobody had a go at us, and that stuck in my mind the whole time. And when it happened, you see, it was a number of consequences. Limerick made a very bad move in taking Gearóid Hegarty out of centre back, because not Gearóid, Ger Hegarty, Gearóid's father, out of centre back, because he dominated the three positions. He went behind, and when they went down the left wing, he went and covered back there, and he covered centre back, and he covered right half back, and we couldn't get the ball past him. There was a switch made then with one of the players, and Ger went to centre field, and then suddenly the half back line opened up, and we started playing. Offaly were a fine hurling side, you see, and but the feeling I had was it was a bit of a downer in one sense, that here I was hoping that Limerick would win in All Ireland, and having won one in '73, and then we had the famine, which lasted 45 years. Now I don't know how anybody could survive 45 years, but we did, and I'm there in charge of an Offaly team that beats Limerick in the final. It's a bit surreal. Is that the word they use?
Yeah.
Surreal, yeah.
I think it's a good word to sum it up, because Limerick, as I was saying this during the week as well, Limerick almost became the Mayo of hurling in some ways, in that they kept getting to finals and they just couldn't.
That's right.
From 73 to 18 get over the line. So it's almost like the plug has been opened now, and they're flowing more regularly.
Yeah, but we're lucky. We came across. We didn't come across them. They were there, and they were just brought together. The present senior team would have been all through the academy, except there are exceptions to all rules, that you don't have to be in the academy to become a very good player. It will help you improve, and that's what it has done for a lot. And then they brought in a magnificent backroom team. Like, imagine having 25 fellas in your control. And we were lucky that John Kiley was a principal of a secondary school and had the administrative skills to bring them all together, and it's just phenomenal. That's all I can say. It's unbelievable. We're living in Cloud Cuckoo land, you know.
Allow me at last, I guess, from a Limerick perspective, we talked about the 2012 under-16 win, but in 2016, your Mary I first Fitzgibbon, I think, in a long time, certainly for Mary I, was the first.
Never won one.
It's the first ever. There you go. Yeah. And you look at the list of players that were on that team. I think you had David Reedy, you had Darragh O'Donovan, you had Richie English. Like, some of these lads, Lynch of course, and Declan Hannon as well. I mean, that must have been a moment where you felt this was a special group of players as well, because that's a huge moment, as you say. Sorry, the first Fitzgibbon Cup win for Mary I.
Yeah, well, when you add in the Tipperary lads, you had Seamus Kennedy, who's playing with Tip now.
Yeah,
you had Niall O'Mara playing with Tip now, and you had a blend of you were Ronan Maher, he was playing, you know, but we had a blend of exceptionally good players. And we didn't think that they were capable of winning the Fitzgibbon. And I'll give you an example of what we mean. We got to the final, having been beaten by UL in the round robin thing, and they'd beaten us by 12 points or something like that. And do you know how many nights we trained for it?
In the week?
In a week.
How many? I suppose 3 or 4, you'd imagine.
One.
Right.
One. We had one meeting. And it was the players' decision. They came in, they said, look, there's no point in coming in Tuesdays and Thursdays for the final, and we're only having 12, because they were out on teacher practice as well, and they'd have to come back from all over the country, and it wasn't feasible to do that. So the lads decided, we'll come in one night, and we'll be all there. We did no shooting practice. We did an ordinary session, nice and easy. But what had stood to us is that a lot of the lads were inter-county players, and they had trained. They'd gone home and trained with their clubs, or they had trained with the county, so they were fit enough. But then you had Cian Lynch, and you had Declan Hannon. Declan Hannon played corner forward, full forward in the semi-final. In the quarter-final running up, and I was at it against UL. It was the day Sean Finn had his cruciate injury, and Declan was inside full forward, and I had handed over being in charge to one of the lads, and I said, "You're in charge today. I'll go down with the hurlers down to the back." And I was there in the left corner position as such, and Limerick we were playing 5 hand passes out of defence. And by the time the ball got down, Declan's back was red raw from the full back, having all the time in the world to wait and know that the ball was coming in slowly. So I decided that I would change the style, and I'd say I'd take Declan out of full forward, put him into right corner forward, and then we'd use one pass and then clear the ball down the field. And the balls were coming in magnificently for him, and he was our free taker as well. And Declan, you see, the thinking was the cornerbacks don't like movement. They don't like balls coming in diagonally. They like a nice high ball coming in of control, or a ball coming in low, and they don't have to go too fast for the ball. But with Declan moving, that meant the cornerback had to move. Yeah, he had to use his brain. And then it came in sideways, and Declan was out in front. And did you ever see his ball skills?
Yeah, unbelievable.
He's unbelievable. Now, he went off injured after 55 minutes. And he had a goal and 12 points scored. And then we went into, he was gone for the extra time. I call Owens Jesse Owens, but he was refereeing. And then we were 2 points ahead, and next thing they got 2 frees, draw, extra time. We were ahead again, 2 frees, draw, extra time. Right. And with 5 minutes of extra time. And one of the lads went down injured with a cramp, and I couldn't take him off. He wouldn't come off. Andy Ryan wouldn't come off, and I got annoyed. I said, "Stay there." So, and the match progressed anyway. And within 30 seconds of me being out of this flood, I was walking to the sideline, and a whistle blew, and I looked at my watch, and there was 47 seconds left. And I said, and next thing I saw my daughter Kira, who was the sports officer in Mary I, with her hands like that. I couldn't believe the match was over. Because there was still 47 seconds, right? But it started, and the team. The beauty of that team was there were 5 subs that could come on, and would not disimprove the team. Yeah, would make it better. Yeah, and we had strength and depth in that team, and it was a great for Mary I. It was great for Noreen Lynch, God rest her, who had kept hurling and football going in Mary I for years on her own. For her, it was fantastic for her. But we were happy, and then the following year they went out again and they won it. So the momentum was there, and all the players had tasted high level. They were part of the minor team. They were beaten in an All-Ireland final by some of these Kilkenny fellas that are playing on Sunday. They would have been playing against us in the minor final that they beat us in, and beat us well. So we have tremendous respect for Kilkenny. Not enough to be beaten by, but tremendous respect.
Well, we should finally touch on that match as well, Eamon, this weekend. I mean, so much at stake. I guess Limerick would love to be a 4 in a row team. Kilkenny, of course, who did it in 06-09, would love to be the team to stop them. Their history, no matter what way you look at it. How do you see this one shaping up? We're kind of looking Declan Hannon, the man we mentioned, potentially not involved this Sunday, remains to be seen. But either way, there are a lot of decisions for John Kiley to make, a lot of decisions for Derek Ling to make. But how do you see it playing out?
It's a 2-horse race, and don't anybody tell you otherwise. And how there are 4 to 11 favourites is beyond me. I don't gamble or anything like that, but 4 to 11 is a ridiculous figure. And generally the bookies seem to get it right, but there are times when they don't. But we're minus Declan, we're minus Sean. That means we've got to bring 2 players have to fill that position, and your leader is gone, and a fabulous player. The way he plays at centre back is unreal, and it's the way Limerick are playing. They play. I know what kind of a game they play because I haven't been allowed to go to any of their sessions, and it's total. Everything is calm. They go through the routine. They have Paul Kinnerk there, who seems to be not a bit of a genius.
Yeah.
And he's applying everything. And then he has a backroom staff, hurlers, the selectors there are very good, and they're involved. They're all involved. But one of the things that it struck me is their composure under pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they're not playing well at the moment. And I was very impressed with Kilkenny the last day. And Clare, that was... Clare shouldn't have lost it. There were chances that they could have got. But there's only a puff of a ball between all of the teams.
Yeah.
Like Galway the same way, Kilkenny, Limerick, Clare, Tipperary, same thing. And there are 5 there. And you have to put in Kilkenny beside it. And Wexford, unfortunately, didn't work out this year. But it's another one of these matches that I just don't know who's going to win. But my heart says Limerick. And my heart always overrules my head at times, and I'd be going for Limerick, but it's going to be very, very close. And if we don't improve on what we have done so far, we're not going to be winning. So it's up to the players.
And there's the call out from Eamonn Cregan for the players if they're listening or watching in advance of Sunday. You'd said I think in 2016 that interview where you'd said it was an absolute disgrace, the gap between Limerick winning. You'd also said I couldn't go to Thurles anymore. I'd be playing the match. Well, is that why you can't go? You'd be too invested.
I'm like, you take the situation where I brought Declan Hannon to right cornerback. Now the other selectors didn't agree with it, but I got him round. I've played corner forward and I know what kind of ball that I want. And it has to be put on a plate for me. Because what advantage has a forward if he has to go 50-50 for a ball? You have the ball, you're placing the ball in high, and more than likely the back is going to win it. So it's the way it's played. And this is Limerick are playing. I'd love to be playing today. Like the ball is on the plate for no.
And the pitches as well are pretty perfect.
Yeah, but they're getting fabulous ball in. And everybody is working for everybody else. And there's no one person dominating. They're all a team. And they've been a team for so long. They've known each other since under 14. I was at an under 14 final between Castletroy and Ardskull. And there would have been 8 or 9 of that team playing in the final. Keane Lynch was playing, I remember. Barry Nash was playing. And they've been playing against each other and know each other so well. They're like a family. And this is the thing. In our day, we'd oddballs all over the place and trying to control them. I wouldn't have the knowledge on how to control these guys, but they have a job to do and they're focused. And you're talking about 4 in a row. They're not even thinking of 4 in a row. They're thinking of an All-Ireland final. We want to win that. That's their next match. And they take one match at a time. And this is what they're doing. And I'm hoping that they'll be just ahead at the end.
Well, listen, I'm sure they'll enjoy the build-up. We'll all enjoy the build-up, and we'll all enjoy the match as well. Well, maybe you mightn't enjoy the match. You'll be watching between your fingers probably on the TV. But
I'll be watching a car.
Right, yeah, listening to it potentially. Listen, Eamon, brilliant stuff, and try and enjoy the match on Sunday. Best of luck to Limerick.
Okay, thank you very much.
OTB AM.
The Sports Breakfast Show from Off the Ball.
3,